Hello, internet friends, and welcome to episode number 141 of Final Boss TV, your WoW and game rating show. I'm your host. My name's Adam K.A.K. Bay, and today's show is going to be another compare and contrast episode. We still have a number of shows to do in the future, and as we continue through this sort of first pass down the Legion class and spec shows, some are still going to be smooshed together, but in the future, on the second pass of Legion, every spec will have its own show. Glob helped me trying to find guests for all of those. But today is Arms and Fury Warriors. Next week will be Blood DK, and then followed by Holy Paladins. And then from then on, you get to vote on the next couple of shows on Twitter, of course. So link is down below for that. Also link down below to make sure I give a huge special shout out to the assistant producers of Final Boss TV, helping make sure this show keeps going. So thank you very much to Truffles, Ludovicus, Taislin, R4, Dalthier, Tachinori, and new to the assistant producers, Quen. Thank you very much for the new support. Additionally, if you want more podcasts, they're over on Patreon. So there is a little over an hour-long banter session with my two guests and I for the Fury Warrior Arms show right there on Patreon. There you keep scrolling down. There's some BTS posts you can look at later. There's the Windwalker Monk show. There's the one with Preacher and I talking about that show. All this stuff. You can actually just hover over these tags and look at all of the additional shows that are listed. They go all the way back to the Hunter show. So if you want more podcasts, go check them out. Linked down below. Or, of course, if you're all on YouTube right now, hello, YouTube. Those are in the description box below. But enough from me. Let's go over here. My guests today, we had a little bit of preamble in chat before we started, but we'll bring up the first one. Fellow Florida mans joining me on the show today. There's Naeno. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello, it's me. It's Naeno, Florida man.
Are we? I don't know if we can be. We're not really in the same place right now, but I don't think if you put too many Florida mans in one space, bad things happen. So hopefully
it's gonna get weird. It's gonna get weird real quick in here. Just
don't wrestle any alligators or eat any bath salts, all right? We'll be all right, okay? Good?
Yeah, definitely.
Just don't turn to a weird Florida zombie on stream. Gosh. And then with his epic beardness piping into us from our cold neighbor to the north, there's Corejo. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hey, hello. I'm Corejo.
So the beard, I can't handle it right now. Like
I groomed it fresh this morning.
It's so manly.
Yeah, thank you. I try.
I mean, Naeno's off camera right now because his beard is even more beardly, right?
Oh, I have the longest beard. It covers the entirety of my webcam.
I can't handle it. I mean, I'm sitting here with just a paltry beard in comparison, so I totally get it. But I guess back around the table real quick, I'll go over to Mr. Beard himself. But Corejo, what do you do? Because with the way that I do these Legion shows now, it's a lot of new guests and new people on the show, just to highlight new faces that have been building things and tools and community bits and pieces. So what do you do in the warrior corner of World of Warcraft, Corejo? What's your thing?
Well, I usually do the I guess a face of Arms Warrior. I'm in the Skyhold Arms channel quite often. I talk a lot of shop with other warriors, teaching them how to do stuff like that. I also, do log analysis. I also, I guess I tried to help in the Arms Companion a little bit here. Val doesn't want me to. Kind of sucks. But that's pretty much it.
The Arms Companion you bring up. So as we go over like the resources here in the opening section, there is this huge Google document. That is put together. So you said Velen doesn't want you to.
Yeah.
You're.
Well, I mean, I try. I do spell check here and there.
I saw you spell check.
Yeah, I do spell check. I try. Val does most of the writing though.
This is a huge one. So not to throw shade at Archie in chat, but why does Fury? I don't know. Maybe Naeno can defend this. Why is Fury still on a forum post
Well, it's a simple answer. It's because we don't need something so fancy and nice to make the spec look good.
Oh,
is that?
That's hard hitting, man.
We just give you the raw things, and then you can enjoy the actual spec in game, unlike ARMS.
I mean, the Fury Warrior. I mean, these are both huge resources, obviously, but like the Fury Warrior guide is all like everything is in these show boxes. It's so much clicking. I don't know if I mean, like the Arms Warrior one is nice, all the little pretty little icons, and you just kind of scroll through and learn. And I mean, there's 16 pages of this, so good luck. But
well, Fury has so few buttons, so they gotta click on something.
That's very true. That's very true.
Okay. I'll take that one.
I mean, all you hit right now is Battle Cry and then Draft of Souls, right?
Oh, you gotta hit.
Yeah, that's exactly what we hit.
Okay. I mean, gotta make sure you're the arcade mage of Melee right now, so it's we have to be.
Let's not talk about mages, please.
Why? Wait, is there a
let's not talk about mages, especially frost mages. Let's not get into that topic.
Has a hatred for them, I guess.
What? Frost mages are totally balanced. Is there a problem?
I don't know. You don't need a range class beam melee. Okay, let's just go with that. Especially on Augur.
Indeed. So, and then I guess on the flip side, then Naeno, what do you do in the Fury, the warrior community? What are you up to?
So as Arky put it, I'm basically a help desk for Fury. But in reality, what I do is I make sure like what's done on The Sims can be applicable in game. Because not everything that's done on The Sims can actually work well in game. I also help with the day-to-day things on Skyhold in terms of moderation and helping people out. I also manage the new Skyhold podcast that we just came out with recently. And I also work hand-in-hand with Arkians and others within Skyhold and figuring out, especially now with PTR up and stuff, and giving feedback and figuring out what works, what doesn't work right now. And trinkets and stuff, stuff like that on a daily basis.
Yeah, this show, I mean, I do these in like 4 different shows or be able to vote it on, so people get to kind of like weigh in and pick in what sort of order these shows go for the most part. And this show comes on the brink of nerfs and buffs and some pretty heavy mechanical changes and things. So we'll try to make sure we get some future proofing. And the Warriors, I mean, I saw you guys a lot all weekend on the PTR, at least in Discord, unless you're tricking people, trying to figure things out and put stuff together. I mean, Archie was just on the PTR like the last couple of days, so you guys are definitely trying to dig in. So, I mean, all Fury's worrying about is that they're losing their best trinket. That's, Arms is getting a lot.
Hey, that's Arms too, okay?
Yeah, but we got better trinkets out there.
So
it's true that
we'll try to cover what's coming in the future, though. But for the huge Arms Compendium, of course, and then the Fury War FAQ, they'll be linked in the description box below. And I'm sure Archie or Merrick can toss those up in chat. And they're pinned in the Skyhole Discord, too. So if you need to get those, then you can check those out. Too huge. Almost everything goes. Like, is there anything those are missing? Probably just the simulation stuff and things like that, I suppose. But there's a lot.
Mostly everything's there, yeah. You'll mostly find everything on the pins.
Yeah, everything should be there.
Okay.
The exchanges, all the good stuff.
Well, I'm just going to, no beating around the bush here. 7.2, which we're about to say goodbye to, didn't change a whole lot for Arms and Fury. They don't really do a lot of the changes now with these new 0.5 patches. So did any major switches or anything happen from the 1.5 to 0.2 with Arms or Fury? Naeno, how about for Fury side of things? Anything?
For Fury, not much besides just the new traits. Besides that, there haven't been really too many changes.
Let me grab. So the new traits, because you brought that up, so I guess we'll bring both of those up real quick in passing, was just some critical strikes, generate rage on Raging Blow. Oh boy. And then you've got Blood Oath, which is just multi-strike. Blizzard likes these. They love these new stacking things, and then multi-strike again in really subtle ways. They're just giving it back to us.
Yep.
So I don't know if
they love having chances on chances.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I don't know how did Oath Blood affect much at all right now? It's just an extra little bit of DPS, I assume, right?
It also changed the stats a little bit. It started because we were kind of getting sort of mastery heavy with DOS, but like the new traits sort of made haste a little bit better overall in general for most people.
Okay.
But it didn't change much besides that, no.
And then you also got Death and Glory, which just makes your Odin's Fury either get empowered by Odin or Helia, which the tooltip's kind of broken, but it looks like it doesn't really matter which one it gets empowered by, right? It's just sort of the same effect, just different
Yeah, it's
color?
basically the same thing. The only difference that they have is one of them generates 20 rage and the other one just heals you for the damage it does.
Right.
But that's about it. It's really not that. It's not a rotation change or any big difference that you'll find.
Right.
You're still going to use it the same way you're using Odin's Fury beforehand.
Okay. And then in the huge Fury Warrior post, to reference this again, you do have a sort of a breakdown of the 7.2 artifact path right there. So that's that. Corejo, how about arms? Did anything really change up for arms in the current state and 7.2 stuff?
A little bit. Execution Precision is the real change here. It basically allows you to use Moral Strike much more often in execute phase rather than doing it once every 3 focus rages. So basically you would execute twice and then Moral Strike, and that Moral Strike would hit super hard. It was like, it hit for me like 5 mil with all my cooldowns, so that stuff. It's a pretty good trait.
Yeah, and comparing the Fury Warrior and New Golden Dragon, which was just like, yeah, extra damage. The Executioner's Precision does have quite a bit of a rotational, like meaningful change. So that's. Then you had Soul the Slaughter, which is just spending rage as a chance to heal you. So
pretty nice in PvP.
Yeah, World Quest.
Pretty good for the challenge as well.
Oh, and that too, it helped a lot for that.
And then the one thing that was, you might not have thought, because we didn't have the tier 20 bonuses, which we'll talk about, of course, later on, but the Sword of Storms, just the Bladestorm or Ravager damage, I bet when 7.2 first dropped, you were like, okay. But it's...
Yeah, it was like, it was okay, but I was like, we all knew 7.2.5 would have the Tomb Sargeras tier, and we're like, wow, this is really good synergy.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to go... There's some tomfoolery happening with those tier 20s.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that, I mean, that's the only, and then to shift that, we'll go 7.2.5 now. So this is probably going to be a giant chunk. I've got a bunch of little things to go over. So the first one, which I didn't know, is that we'll go for arms changes first. And we'll go back and forth. You guys have been tackling this for a while. So the biggest one is that your rage generation for arms is changed, which I mean, it changes every other couple of weeks apparently, depending on when you play this game. So what changed with the rage gen, or what is changing, Corejo? What's changing?
Well, currently your attacks generate 20 to 50 rage per auto attack, depending if you crit or not. So it's kind of really, you know, inconsistent. So you'd be sitting at maybe 100 rage, like, oh, you're fine, I won't rage cap. But then you auto attack, oh, then I rage cap. That's kind of sucks. Rage capping is really bad. But with the new change, you generate either 27 or 35, which is really good. 35 if you crit. That's really good because when you can control your rage more often, you know how much rage you're getting every second, and you just control your rage so much better.
Yeah, that's a wild nothing. So how is rage generated then on the flip side for Fury then? Is it the same since launch of Legion, Naeno?
Yeah, it's nothing changed in terms of rage generation for Fury. It's just based on your auto attack swings and also your abilities themselves.
Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty huge swing.
Mm-hmm.
They've also moved. I have a whole bunch of little notes here. So Opportunity Strikes gets small rage regeneration. Ravager now will generate rage each time it deals damage. And the rage gen has been nerfed from Precise Strikes. No, from Will of the First King. Like all these rage things are moving around for arms.
Yeah.
So what we have here, the goodness gracious, Deadly Calm was nerfed.
Yes.
On the rage costs. So on Battlecry.
Yeah.
So what's the ebb and flow of arms going to change to, like, now that it's more controlled, or your rage is totally changing how the flow worked?
Well, what they first did is that they nerfed Dauntless to from a 20% less rage cost to a 10%. So your rage costs are pretty high now. But what they did is that they added a lot of rage to several abilities. So like Opportunity Strikes grants 5 rage when it procs, Ravager gets rage when it procs, Overpower doesn't cost anything. I don't think it does. They just moved a lot of rage around. Will the First King, it was 2 on the PTR, then they changed it to 1, which is kind of a slight nerf to a certain talent for a battle, not that much. They just wanted to move. They removed a lot of rage generation, but then they moved it somewhere else in talents to be a bit more consistent, I should say.
Yeah, well, it's good that you said the word consistent, because when these first hit, and I was streaming a couple days ago, and then the new PTR build hit, and the initial kerfuffle I was hearing about was that ARMS is going to get more consistent but more boring, I guess. But the problem that ARMS has always had is that it was very swingy, not to make a two-handed pun. So it's like the way that, because you are essentially a builder spender as an ARMS warrior. In Fury the same way with how you build and spend rage. But is this a good change that Blizzard is tackling with ARMS?
Oh, definitely a huge change. They killed a lot of synergy with certain talents like Focus Rage and Deadly Calm being so good together. But now they're on the same talent line. That's huge. So now you have to choose between either or. But now you get the Legendary Ring, and that changes it to how Deadly Calm, so you can pick Focus Rage. Basically, the problem that ARMS had with its current talents is that each talent had too much synergy with each other. So what they did is they broke that a lot, which is really good. Yeah, well, and again, it adds consistency, which a lot of people don't like inconsistency with the spec.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely go through in the talent section later on, but this is the page we're on right now. This is the current build, as the ARMS warriors are aware of, with Trauma down there at level 90, Deadly Calm, Titanic Might, and Focused Rage on the Mortal Combo in for the kill row. But they moved Fervor of Battle in for the kill, Focused Rage, and Titanic Might.
No, so Titanic Might was... Yeah, Titanic Might was moved, sorry.
Yep. Yeah, so Titanic Might moves, Trauma moves, in for the kill moves, and Fervor of Battle move. And I mean, from the outside looking in, when I was looking at these, I was like, okay, these make sense. Mostly, the overall goal is Focused Rage almost dead in 7.2.5, or what you guys finding out with this? Because this has been sort of a thorn in your side since beta.
I wouldn't say dead, but in its current state, it's not very good because it costs 20 rage base and then 18 with Dauntless. And it competes with such good talents like In for the Kill, which gives you haste, and Deadly Calm. I wouldn't say it's dead, but I do see there might be buffs to it to make it competitive. But I don't think that'll happen.
It's definitely the 90 tier now is all focused on rage.
Yeah.
So Focused Rage spends, In for the Kill just gives you haste that gives you more rage, and Deadly Calm of course has the synergy with Battle Cry, even though it is a little bit weaker now. So these could obviously change a little bit as we go forward. And then Fervor, which was doubled in potency, is on the same row as Mortal Combo and Titanic Might now, which are very rotational choices.
Yes.
And then the Bleed tier, or 45.
Yeah, the Bleed tier, yeah.
Trauma versus Rend, and then Avatar. Even though Rend was also changed, so it's a very short rotational single target bleed. You can't like really cross on it anymore. But these all seem... I mean, Naeno, you've dabbled in ARMS. Is these, from like the Fury perspective, when you see your sister spec get all these changes finally, like, is this... How well are these going over so far?
For me, at least, it makes me feel good. I played ARMS during the start of the expansion, and like the one major issue was always the inconsistency with the spec. You know, at times you would be popping off, and then at other times you'd just be sitting there like if you had a wet noodle fight with someone else. And that was really what was pushing me out.
Yeah, I thought that the overall change, and I can bring up Tactician here, which I don't remember how ARMS worked in Warlords, but the main crux of Tactician, if you're not aware, I mean, everyone watching the show obviously is mostly a warrior, but if you're learning about warrior, the core rotational component of of Warriors Tactician, where you have a 0.75% chance per rage point spent to reset the remaining cooldown on Colossus Smash and Mortal Strike. So that's why the whole rage...
That's like the main component, sorry.
No, you're the main building spending aspect. So do you guys feel on the PTR that ARMS just flows better? Is it more boring? Is this all...
It flows much better, I think. Rather than using an off GC ability basically every 1.5 seconds, you're always using a GCD that means something. So you're hitting Slam, you're hitting Colossus Smash every few seconds with Titanic Might. You can overpower is a viable choice, not viable, but it's a potential choice now. You have a lot more buttons that mean something rather than focused rage, kind of spending rage and only empowering your next attack rather than doing something immediately.
They're definitely heading down the right road in terms of ARMS. It's sort of like, it's nice that they're finally seeing the clear path for which way ARMS should go and the way people will actually enjoy it best.
Yeah, the window of opportunity is not as big as it used to be since the Mastery nerf they also put out too, but the window of opportunity is just so important, and they're hitting that right in the die.
Yeah, because there was always the comparison is brought up between ARMS Warrior and Ret Paladin a lot. It's similar. You put a Judgment window, you do some more damage. You hit the CS window, you do some more damage. But one is just based on haste. The more haste you have, that's why Crusade is so damn good for Ret. The more Judgment window you get, the more uptime you have on your super ridiculous nonsense. The Glory global cooldown goes down, etc., etc. And the problem that people had with ARMS is that it was always RNG. You either keep that CS window going, or you can go 8, 10, 12 seconds with nothing.
Yeah, you have a 22-second downtime Colossus Smash where you're hitting just basically a wet noodle. Mortal Strike hitting for like 200k every 6 seconds. Like, come on.
So hopefully that works out well. There's new legendaries on the horizon as well.
Oh yeah.
So we all get our class, which we don't know yet on the PTR. They do count toward the legendary limit. There's so much kerfuffle going on right now about how, are they part of the legendary limit? Are they free? Do we get them from completing our class campaign? But right now it says, Legion Legendary 2. But so if your new ring, you have the Ravager Helm, and you have the Rampage Pants. So one for all warriors, the ring, and then one for Fear, one for arms. Naeno, what are the Rampage Pants looking like so far? Any?
The Rampage Pants are overpowered, to put it simply.
Oh, okay.
They've already been nerfed internally to 5 rage from 6. But we like to call them, by the way, the Reckless Rampage Rompers.
Okay.
We had a straw poll going on. Technically, mildly mad member 1. But yeah, the pants are definitely a very powerful legendary. They're sort of like our Helm legendary, which gives us 8 rage whenever we enrage. But these work off of just Rampage critical strikes, and Rampage hits multiple times, so you're bound to at least get some crits in there. And then, but the part that really makes it so good, and because it beats the Helm in single target by a bit, but also in multi or in cleave at least, if you cleave your Rampage, all of those rampages will count and give you rage. So you can go in like a 3-target fight cleave, you can whirlwind Rampage, and you might just have another Rampage right after that already from all the rage you just gained from those critical strikes on Rampage. So your Battlecry windows are actually insane with those pants.
And your Frothy Berserker uptime, especially at AoE, is going to be nuts.
Yeah, and the thing too is with the Helm, which is similar, like I said, to the pants, there are a lot of times where you just overcap and you'll waste rage. But it's almost impossible to waste rage with the pants, as Rampage is a rage spender, but then you gain the rage afterwards. So it's almost impossible to waste that rage unless you Rampage, Battlecry, and then Rampage again instantly.
That seems... That was this... This all started months ago with the Fury of the Half-Giants ring for Havoc Demon Hunters, where we started figuring out that these legendaries in Legion that give resource are way too good.
Oh, yeah.
So And we've seen how many times that ring has been nerfed, like 6. It's been nerfed every single like other hot fix, it feels like, and the 0.5s and the 0.2, and now the next 0.5 is getting nerfed again. So any resource management legendaries or resource builders that amplify, that just lead into each other, really, really, really. So are you looking at like Helm Pants then for Fury?
For single target, yeah, most definitely you could be looking at Helm Pants, but you also can look at, for progression at least, you can also look at Pants in the ring, because the ring now provides you Massacre for that execute phase, which is one of the core issues people have with Fury. Really one of the only few issues people have with Fury, because as a spec is, it's currently in a very good iteration, besides the execute phase and a couple things here and there.
Right. And then how about the combination of legendaries you have? Because you have the Ravager Helm, which is Ravager or Bladestorm.
Yes.
So what do you guys found out for the Arms Helm coming around, Corejo?
I think the Helm is going to be best in slot with the tier, but the second is still up to debate. The Mortal Strike gloves now reduce the cost of Mortal Strike by 8 rather than refunding the rage. And then the ring is also really good because it has that Executioner's Precision synergy, and then it also has good synergy with Tactician, because when you use that legendary ring, the Execute one, and then you use Execute, it can proc Tactician. And then that's just also really good. And that's also saving rage because you're using an ability that doesn't cost rage. And the gloves also save you rage because, you know, less cost.
I was going to try to bring these up with tooltips, but I don't know. I think they're both in your... Did you have these in the compendiums? I wanted to bring these up on screen, but I don't know if it's too new to have these listed yet. And there's so much in this document.
In the compendium, yeah.
Yeah. Trinket spreadsheet, just, I don't think so. Not yet.
I don't think the legendaries are listed in there, no.
Not yet. Well, you need, like, I mean, they are available in the PTR, so they are able to test them. But you've got... Yeah, because all you're up to right now is you have the new crafted one. Yeah. So until information gets locked down on 725 legendaries, you guys are just trying to figure everything out right now. That's fair.
Yeah, it's more of just going on the PTR right now and just testing the actual gameplay mechanics of the legendaries instead of the numbers and how they actually fit well into a rotation and such.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Helm being tuned either way, being a buff or a nerf. It's kind of weird how it works, but...
Well, on the flip side, all that stuff with Arbs is changing. Talents, rage generation, rage from talents, range spent, all this stuff. Fury Warriors, so Juggernaut is going to last 8 seconds from 6, and your aura tuned up a little bit. So tons of testing for you, right, Naeno? Just
very, very much testing. It was very demanding.
I mean, and that's all that you're getting is Fury, which is a good thing, though, right? Like, that's not... That probably means, like you just said, the iteration you're currently sitting on with Fury is really good. So you don't need a ton of... Yeah, you don't need a ton of tweaks. Except, there's a blue post just went out the other day. I don't know if you saw this. Anyone saw this? A Kyvax posted... for Fury and Arms Warriors, we're going to scale down the damage of the Draft of Souls in the next build of 725p. Oh.
Wait, what?
We're aiming at roughly a 40% reduction in effectiveness of Draft of Souls.
Since when?
Oh.
Oh, that's okay. I
Trinket's not as powerful.
Anyways.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, the spec is dead, guys. Classes are dead. Just go leave.
But with this in mind, Fury damage has been increased by 5% across the board. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so they emptied the draught out, and then they gave us a percentage increase.
It's
a dumpster fire, the draught.
They just basically uncorked the flask and just splashed it on you and just gave you some of its own
draught of empty.
Yeah. But in that regard, Archie gave you... Where's this picture? So, Naeno, right now, obviously we know the Draft of Souls, incredibly, ridiculously stupid for Fury. Good for Arms, but just stupid good for Fury. But where is it going to land in 725 or, like, transitioning into Tomb of Sargeras?
So to be clear, one thing that a lot of people had a misconception of was that we'd continue using, if it wasn't nerfed, we'd continue using it in TOS, which wasn't the case by any means. with the new tier set and stuff and TOS and the new trinkets, we'd actually be swapping out of draft souls. So technically, this is an overall buff for us going into TOS, as we were going to replace the trinket anyways, and now they just gave us 5% aura on top of the other 5% aura we already had in the PTR. But going into TOS on live, draw to souls is going to be quite low, and there's going to be other trinkets of similar or maybe even lower eye levels at times that will be better than it. Including many dungeon trinkets or even old trinkets such as Ursoc's Paw. Arcano Crystal will obviously be up there because it's Arcano Crystal and it does well. Even Kyojade's Burning Wish will also be a good choice if you don't have anything else. Stat Sticks as well, Haste Stat Sticks, Mastery Stat Sticks, Chrono Shards, and other trinkets alike that have been good before DOS was a thing.
Yeah, this screenshot, which is... Someone needs to learn how to take better screenshots. But anyway... this is all at 900 eye level outside of the Burning Wish, which is at 940. So these are all the sims. This is with Convergence of Fate, and this is your other trinket, correct?
Yeah, this is with Convergence of Fate equipped with 900 eye level gear and also having tier 19 equipped.
Okay. So you can see that the draft runs all the way down here, which you're still simming with this draft at 1.1 million, and the high end is still 1.1 million. So it's like the percentage obviously is different, like very, very small. You can see how the percentage scaling here that we're figuring out. I mean, good luck getting a high level Chaos Talisman. These don't exist. They only exist in stories. The only place you can really get a high level one is the Warforged, Titanforged Gods, or your weekly chest. So
I saw 925 one once. It's pretty nuts.
Did you steal it?
No, I saw another Fury Warrior that he's pretty set for Tomb.
Yeah. But Tony's Promise coming in strong. The Fingernail, the Sensor. This is one of the new trinkets, I believe, right? The Marfices Sensor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a Fury Warrior right now, you better start going onto the Blizzard website and start restoring some items if you can.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I mean...
Take a look what you got.
It feels... I think the funniest part of looking at that is that the spiked counterweight is, like, barely above the draft. And we all know, like, this... Oh, spiked counterweight. But the Terrorbound Nexus is just above it. What a terrible trinket. But...
It's a really good armor trinket, though.
It's different for me because I don't have DPS cooldowns that amplify anything on my character, like Enhancement Shaman style. So I don't understand trinkets that you can game because I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's very different for...
Shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly. Battle Cry, Colossus Smash, all the nonsense you guys have there. But the other one, I glossed over it in just being silly, but the Juggernaut change is actually pretty big, Naeno, right? The extra 2 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, it's appreciated, but it's not by any means the change we wanted in terms of Juggernaut. But it's appreciated. It's better than nothing, you know? You gotta take what you get.
Yeah, Archie had a few suggestions when I tutored the stream the other day, but I don't know if they have the tech of that style of buff to make it really work the way he was explaining it. I don't know if maybe they could, but... Yeah, Juggernaut's a little bit finicky, but Juggernaut only made Fury like all of a sudden rise way to the top on top of the whole draft situation. It's because bosses in Tomb or in Nighthold were so awkwardly balanced that you were in execute for so long.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Especially Augur.
Especially Augur. Augur was the big point. That's where Juggernaut really, really, like, that's where people were like, wow, they're doing a lot of damage. I wonder why. And then they're like, oh, that's why. They have like 50 or 60 stacks of Juggernaut towards the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Yep, because you just keep executing forever, so...
Exactly, yeah. And then once you pop Battlecry and Avatar and you're doing 300% more damage with Execute, it gets kind of wonky.
Well, that's the trade-off here. We kind of went through these 7-2 traits a little bit, but just to touch on that again, because Juggernaut, which is right over here for Fury, so Execute increases the damage of your next Execute, or overall Executes, by 5% for 6 seconds, soon to be 8, up to 99 stacks. But then, in a way, when we went over the BTS podcast with this, the new ARMS Executioner's Precision is probably way more versatile and better overall, would you not argue that point.
I think it's just a better designed Juggernaut in general.
Yeah.
It allows you not just focus on execute. It allows another ability to act like execute. It adds a bit of flavor to the rotation, I would think.
Well, the one thing there's not. We went over this a lot. You guys gotta like listen to the BTS podcast. We break all this. We're thinking about Tomb for like half of the whole recording session. But looking at Executioner's Precision, you can execute like nonsense adds in a fight and then Mortal Strike into the boss, if a boss lets you do that. Whereas Juggernaut doesn't let you do that. What?
Executioner's Precision is a debuff on the target, unfortunately.
Oh, it doesn't actually say that at all, so that's good to know.
No, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a debuff on the target, and it has synergy with Sweeping Strikes.
Oh,
so
okay.
Sweeping, so if Sweeping Strikes hits the boss with the execute, that boss would get Executioner's Precision on it.
Ooh. So there it is.
It's kind of the downfall of it. It's not as good in Juggernaut in some ways, but it's also better. It's good and worse, kind of.
Okay. Yeah, it lasts 30 seconds, like the window of time to do it. Wow. Yeah, it's so
you're not to switch.
So I wonder how that will pair out. I think do you feel like there's going to be a shift? Because the next like topic to move for is the whole one big old two-hander or two big old two-handers, and what the balancing dichotomy is going to feel like in 725 going into Tomb of Sargeras. Do you feel like guilds will just still stick with Fury Warriors? Will they go with arms instead? Will they take one of each? I mean, Naeno, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's healthy to have two warriors and have one be arms and one be fury, because it's interesting what the execute phases on both the classes provide. You have Fury here who plays the long game. The longer the execute goes on, the more damage it's going to start doing. But then you have arms, which brings the front-loaded damage and very instant burst with some crazy numbers that you can actually pull off. And so I think it's healthy to have both of them in your raid. I think maybe down the road in TOS, like towards the end of progression, it might come to be where just one spec is better than the other, or seems better than the other at least, which like how Nighthold was the case, where at the start a lot of people were still playing arms at the start of Nighthold due to how they performed in EN and TOV, but then slowly Fury started to come up and rise, and now Fury's king of Nighthold and arms doesn't have too much play in it. So I could see that potentially happening in TOS, but from the changes that are going on in 725, also the rating counters themselves, I could see a healthy mix of both specs actually going in.
Yeah.
And
I could definitely see some fights being good for Fury, some fights being good for arms too.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because we went through a lot of is there a big difference in like AoE damage burst potential though? Because arms obviously has Blade Storm, but then the Battlecry Odin's Fury is almost the exact same thing for Fury though. But when we broke this down and looked through, I was looking at the Dungeon Journal last night, there really aren't any fights in Tomb of Sargeras that have like eye phases like Mythical Dan does. So a lot of it, so much more, is going to be very single target focused in Tomb. Like,
for sure, yeah. I think they've, they gave us the raid where you can cheese yourself and pad on all the fights and get your parses and all that and do whatever you want, have some fun, and then hopefully they're going back to the more, single target oriented, couple ads here and there to add some flavor, but nothing crazy like Tichondrius or Scorpion or things like that.
Yeah, there's the closest we get to a Scorpion type fight, at least from what I've seen right now, is the Harjartan, the big Naga brute, because all the Murlocs pull in. But it's very intermittent. It's not like, hey, there are Scorpions. Oh, and there are Scorpions. Oh, wait, there are now Scorpions. So we'll have to wait.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I kind of like the fights like Archimond, where you had the big ads. I think you had small ads, where you'd have the big single target people or cleave people cleave down those big ads. Then you have some people in the group that are really good at AoE cleave down those small ads. That's the fights I like the most.
They have like a balance to it for sure. Yeah. And then I guess that this is sort of a personal one. I think it looks weird. I guess the fantasy is different. I don't play a warrior, but Naeno, do you think that Fury should have been two one-handers And then Arms should have had the big old two-hander, though, because you both all just use two-handers. But Fury apparently just can hold two of them, but Arms can only hold one, or is there some story reason?
Well, I mean, we can hold two of them because we're the better spec. But I think Fury Titan's grip is such an iconic thing. I mean, it was on the Wrath of the Lich King box art, or at least on the back of the box. It featured Titan's grip as one of the core new things in Wrath, and it's been iconic ever since then. And I think it's important to note that if you ever see someone running around with two huge two-handers on their back, you're not gonna think it's any other spec besides a Fury. You have rogues with little daggers. You have demon hunters with their warglaives. And then you have this Fury Warrior running in there with two huge weapons that he's swinging each with one hand. And I think that's, as much as I hate to say class fantasy, I guess that fits the class fantasy of Warrior. But I do think that Arms, their two-handers need to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
They're kind of small for being the spec that builds up and goes in for these heavy hits. Their two-handers seem kind of wimpy, especially when you have Fury Warriors sitting right next to them, smacking with the same size weapons, but two of them. It just makes the spec look pretty bad. But in terms of one-handers, I think they could have let, Fury transmog their weapons into one-handers. I think that would have been fine. But I still think the class fantasy, quote-unquote, for Fury is having two-handers. Because, you are that raging berserker who just runs in there and causes...
I mean, I have your screenshots up here, right? Because you're not on camera, because you're a dork, but... hiding the beard. But I mean, the weapons you have on your Blood Elf, they're large, but they're almost like not too big to not just be one-handers though. And that's sort of the thing, is that a lot of the skins, at least the ones that are for your swords, aren't really huge. But I totally get the point that if you put like an Arms Warrior and a Fury Warrior next to them with their weapons drawn, there isn't too much of a difference in size, unless you're comparing like, a male Tauren to like a gnome, even though gnome weapons are really big too, for whatever reason. But
I think the challenge mode weapon from Warlords, the big blazing sword, the fire one, I think that would have been a perfect size for the Arms weapon.
Oh yeah.
And then just keep the Fury one how it is, because that's a huge weapon. But I guess some people just don't like that. The whole Dark Souls feel, I guess, to it.
Well,
go ahead. When Arms has an ability called Colossus Smash, you think a giant smash with a giant weapon. But then you see Fury, he's hit a Raging Blow, and it's the, not the same animation, but Colossus Smash implies a huge smash. I mean, you're hitting with a kind of dinky weapon compared to Fury sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of the Arms skins are pretty small.
They fixed some of the gender racial weapons in the last build, but I still thought that was a little weird. And there's shenanigans where you can, how do you make it so that you can transmog your weapons to look like, because Fury Warriors can make their weapons look like Arms.
Oh
weapons.
there's a glyph of the Battle Lord or something, of the Weapon Master, something like that. I have it. Yeah. It makes it just transmogs it to a random weapon that you have in your bag. But I only have the Arms artifact weapon, so it always picks that one.
Unfortunately, it doesn't choose Sulfurs or Shadowmoor and stuff like that. I was kind of sad when I found that out.
Oh, well, they said you can't transmog the old legendary.
Yeah.
So. Yep. But Demon Hunters are getting their glaives back if they do Time Walking Black Temple soon, if they have the achievement with the original glaive. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, but that was a question that came up in Discord about the sizing of the weapons and how that should work. So I know there's definitely a mixed feel between Titan's Grip and Single-Minded Fury, but they're both gone technically, even though the Titan's
There's
Grip,
only one left, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I thought the Titan's Grip like passive was just kind of baked in to begin with, so.
Yeah, it basically is, yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, size matters, and having bigger weapons is always better.
You gotta compensate for something.
It's just true. I mean, that's fair. But the flip side to that argument is everyone's been, as we've been talking about, in different ways, everyone's been all aflutter about Fury, at least right now in Nighthold. But like, I don't have an Arms Warrior in my guild. And I didn't really dig through it. It's like the parse echelon to see like what the different percentage of them are. But like, what do you think the misconception or the problem or the feeling is, or is just because Draft of Souls, Battlecry, auto attack ring nonsense that Fury just pulls way ahead, that there's not a lot of Arms Warriors? Because you're obviously playing Arms Warrior yourself, Corejo, and you probably find and talk to many others. But what do you feel is there a problem with the spec as it plays right now? Or will that get cleaned up in the patch?
Well, definitely in the patch, the state of Arms Warriors would be changing. It has decent burst AoE, and then it would flow better. Arms really struggles with target switching really bad, because, you know, you get Colossus Smash, and oh, you got to switch to the Augur ad. Oh no, I don't have Colossus Smash. I got nothing. But Fury just, you know, performs much better, but Arms isn't bad. It's just not as competitive as Fury. It's Arms would say middle of the pack. Even on Gul'dan, Arms can compete very well. But in some fights, kind of like one fight Arms did not perform well. Spellblade sometimes. We don't take Ravager, so you kind of sit there. You get a Blade Storm, and that's all you got. You kind of hit Whirlwind. While in the Fury Warrior, meanwhile, Odin's Fury keeps Whirlwinding for even more damage than you are.
Yeah, that's a balancing thing. But I always thought it was interesting to hear about that. You take Ravager, so it's like Super Blade Storm. You toss that down, and then the Arms Warrior does all their AoE nonsense, but then the Fury Warrior does the same thing and does way more. But the whole
it does it faster.
Yeah, right. That's also true too.
And more consistently as well.
That too.
Arms is more like they're more like the one pump champions. They can, you know, throw in the Warbreaker with the Battle Cry and the Blade Storm, and then that's it. They got nothing after that.
Arms has a lot of tools for AoE. It's kind of weird. They have Ravager talent, they have Blade Storm, they have Warbreaker, their AoE Colossus Smash, they have Cleave and Whirlwind, but yet they really lack in the AoE content there.
It goes back to the whole thing of reliance on Colossus Smash.
Yeah, right. They rely way too much on it, which I'm glad they're nerfing the effectiveness of Colossus Smash, so your abilities hit harder.
And then you have Fury, of course, that it seems like if Nighthold was almost catered towards it.
Oh yeah, as being in the same cooldown as Odin's Fury.
So what I'm trying to check the tooltips here just to clarification. So Colossus or Colossal Might on live is 16% more damage on CS, and then additional 16% damage under the target. That's baseline before mastery. And it's changing as it currently stands to 12.8 CS damage and 12.8 additional damage. So they've pulled away from that window, and I assume in the rest of the stuff, like because Rend get buffed and like baseline spells went up a little bit in attack power, weapon damage coefficient, so they just kind of put the rest of the damage in your kit a little out of the CS window. Yeah,
they want to make it not as important so you don't feel bad when you don't have Colossus Smash.
Right. But it might end up that you're going to have more frequent and more consistent Colossus Smash anyway.
Yeah, that too.
So, okay.
Yeah, thank God Titanic Might solves that. Which it should have done much longer ago.
Yeah, right. What did that... Because that read... Goodness me. It just says increases the duration of Colossus Smash by 16 seconds now. And then it changes, at least in the current iteration, to increases the duration by 8 seconds and reduces the cooldown, the flat cooldown by 8 seconds.
Yeah. And on the PTR, Colossus Smash has a 20-second cooldown, sorry. And so you'll have 100% uptime of Colossus Smash the entire time with Titanic Might. The also good thing about Titanic Might is that you can target switch easier since it has a lower cooldown.
That's very true. Yeah, 20 seconds on the PTR versus the 30 seconds on live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be 45 seconds. That was really bad.
There's definitely... it was. Yeah, back in Legion originally, in the beta, I remember testing at 45, going like, really? Is this...
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that's very true. But those... It definitely becomes more of a rotational component, but definitely the window of opportunity you still have to make sure you are making best use of it, so...
Yeah, I really missed the Siege of Orgrimmar Colossus Smash, where it was basically a DPS cooldown. You used it, you did a ton of damage there, and then outside Colossus Smash, you still did a decent amount of damage without it.
So are there any major bugs or bits of tomfoolery with either Arms or Fury right now that are either getting addressed in 7.2.5 or not getting addressed? What do you guys have... Naeno, is there anything like that for Fury right now that
Archie
the only
has
one I
one.
could think off the
Oh,
top of my head on Fury is the whole Rampage issue, scaling with haste.
Oh.
It basically doesn't. So you press Rampage and you press another ability, and your other ability goes faster, but Rampage goes slightly slower, and then it just throws you off. And it appears to be something they can't fix with just a patch. It appears to be something that has to be a major patch or maybe an entirely new expansion to where they can fix the core ability and its how it interacts. But like besides that, there's not too many that I can think off the top of my head bugs or anything with Fury. I mean, it's just, you know, it's something that's annoying, but you get used to it. At least we're not, you know, disconnecting or anything when we press one of our abilities like some certain classes are.
Well, the problem I remember about Rampage is that a lot of it was because you are animation locked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a gripe that I had when I was testing way back in Legion Beta when I was doing all of my spec testing videos, is that as cool as the Rampage animation looks on different race combinations and etc., the moment that you leave that window, that animation, you normally want to hit another global. And you always clip the Rampage animation anyway, which A, just looks aesthetically awkward, but B, because you're locked into it, and because it, you know, again, quote-unquote, scaled with haste, it never really looked and felt smooth.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, go ahead, Corejo.
No, I'm saying it doesn't look very smooth at all, because then you use a GC to react to like Whirlwind. You kind of just clip it. It looks weird.
Yep. How about arms, though? Any major bugs or tomfoolery with arms?
There's only one bug right now. Is that if you use Focused Rage, having a Mortal Strike queued up next, it won't consume that Focused Rage stack. And that's pretty much the only one I can think of.
So does that mean that that Focused Rage will just carry over to the next use?
To the next one, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you want it now, but no, you don't have it now.
Right. I mean, you look through the arms compendium. There's a huge like priority list of like how you follow through with your. There's opener priorities here, but it shows.
Yeah.
This is gonna all have to be rewritten because.
Oh yeah, totally rewritten.
Because look at how often, like, Focus Rage is here and then it's down here and then it's always in the rotation so frequently that you have just this priority that it's so, here's the openers without DOS or with DOS or a standard rotation as priority list, and it just that it Focus Rage is all over the place. And if you're gonna have hopefully different options that you don't have to be so pigeonholed into this one global ability, which is basically saying this is gonna trigger some people, but it's essentially Heroic Strike.
It really is, but it just doesn't deal damage. It amplifies your next damage. It used to be called Heroic Strike on the beta, though. Back in the day.
I mean, and Fury had their own Heroic Strike, was like the ignite your weapon fiery thing.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
It was thematically neat, but it was just Heroic Strike.
Yeah.
So.
Let's not bring up Heroic Strike. The Arky's around in chat, so you don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to make them too sad on a Sunday.
Does that website still exist?
Yeah, it still does. It even plays the song and everything.
Yeah, .org still exists.
Yeah, heroicstrike.org. Check it out.
Oh, there it is.
Never forget.
On key, never forget. Yep, for sure. Gosh. Well, I guess the last point before we go into the mid-show break is the Mage Tower challenges, which the Mage Tower will probably be up again in like a day and a half from recording this live. So, I mean, check it out. I got the elemental bracers now, so everyone's like, now you can't slack on doing the elemental challenge now, Bay. You got to go do it. Go do it. I've only done Havoc and Enhancement, but... So Arms gets Closing the Eye, which is against Archmage Xylem and the Void Monster. And then Fury has the Impossible Foe, which same as Elemental has, which is Agatha, the Imp Mother. So Corejo, how did the fight against the Archmage go for you in that one?
Okay, for me, I die a lot in raids, so the first phase was pretty hard for me. I kept dying, mostly for some reason to those shadow orbs. I'll be like, oh, I'm fine, I don't have to move, and oh, I got clipped, I'm dead. I die a lot to that, so a lot of attempts were down to that. But overall, I thought it was a very good challenge. There's a lot of cool things you can do, like leaping out of the ice is pretty neat. You can leap charge to where Xylem is, and end the phase quickly. And then the Void Monster phase felt really easy to me because you just take a certain talent and then you kind of just DPS race it.
Yep. No, that's true. He has some cool dialogue though. I mean, he's very into himself,
does.
But
I know, right?
I
got so sick of it.
I made the video for Havoc with Closing the Eye, and there's so much salt from like Frost DKs and Survival Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, look at this
real bad for them.
idiot double jumping and dashing across the room. And I was like, well, I can't become like immune to magic or harpoon across the room like you can. So I mean, come on. But
yeah,
I remember when I did it. It was literally I just equipped the heroic leap shoulders, so you know I got some use out of them after getting them.
They are from our perspective, they're the gummy bear shoulders.
We call them the bunny shoulders. We're sort of like bunnies when we have them equipped. But yeah, I just equipped those, jump out of every little icy thing, land on him. I had a couple issues though, a bug at times where he would do that shimmer effect and he would teleport to the other side of the platform. But I'd land there so quickly that he wouldn't be there at the time, and it would just bug out and I'd die. So I had that happen a couple times, being a little too fast.
Yeah, a couple attempts to me that happened too.
But it was fun. It was definitely very fun, especially since it was all planned out.
But then, Naeno, how did the impossible foe go with Agatha then for Fury? How'd that work out for you?
Agatha was an interesting one. It was kind of frustrating because there was a bit of RNG to it, but it's a very simple fight at its core. It just becomes hectic because it adds mechanics on top of mechanics, and then one thing interacts with another, and if you mess up one thing, it messes you up on another thing. But in general, it was quite fun. The boulder phase towards the end was quite interesting, where you jump from one side to the other.
Right.
And at the end, we just figured out that the best strategy, or at least the one I wrote in my guide, was to ignore some of the ads basically, and just tunnel the boss and throw the ads and just burst them whenever you have your cooldowns up. So whenever you have Battlecry and Owen's Fury, you would just burst them down. But it was a fairly easy fight. I believe I got it in around like 10 or 13 pulls, somewhere around there the same night. And then I just went and bashed my face into Prot 1 until giving up and raging.
Yeah,
I did. Oh, sorry.
No, so the tank ones were nerfed, what, 3 times?
Oh, yeah.
They're basically DPS challenges. It's a tank. What are you doing,
so
Blizzard?
Bad for prop pallies, man. Yeah, it's so much damage to deal.
Yeah. But they're pretty fun. I wish you could redo them, which hopefully they can just turn them back on in the future, or you can just go back and do them again and like try different builds. Or the other suggestion we had on previous shows is why, after you beat like Agatha as Fury, which is the main one, why can't you go try her as Arms?
That'd be really fun, to be honest.
Yeah, like why can't I try Sigrun as Elemental? So
I would like
that would be fun because you can do like in Proving Grounds, you could try like the other challenges, like try the DPS challenge as a tank or try the healer one as a DPS. Like you can do that, but for these mage towers, they didn't put much replayability in them, which is weird because they made a scenario in 725, the Death of Chromie scenario, which is all about replayability, but not these.
Yeah.
So I believe when the mage towers came out, though, I think there was a bug for I think the first or 2 days where you could do the challenge in a different spec.
Oh, really?
I think
I really want to do the
available.
Archmage Xylem would have been really easy as a Fury Warrior, I think. The self-healing
you
got,
definitely.
I
I definitely see it.
But that's the whole point, to see like how it would be. So yeah, I would like to have that be a thing. They just need to fix something and turn them back on, basically. And then when you just have the quests all available for your class, then select which one you want to do, and then go in as that spec. So I'd love to see if you could actually do like the tank ones as a DPS spec. You might get like totally raffled. That would be interesting to see.
That'd be pretty fun. Impossible.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
I mean, the tanks by themselves are already almost getting one shot at times. So
very true. Yeah, it's very true. But you never know. We'll see if it happens. But I think with that, let's move us along real quick here to the middle of the show. Plug a few things, and then we'll get into more talents and legendaries and nitty-gritty and stats after this little mid-show break. But if you are new to the show, of course, you can check out all of the past shows over on the YouTube link. Linked, of course, down below. Or if you're on YouTube right now, again, hello. All the shows are put up on YouTube, and they're in chunks by, like a season, by the year that they are aired. So all the ones we have right now are the Windwalker show, the Legion show, bears, guardian druids, feral druids, balanced druids, etc., all the way back as we go there. And of course, then the 2016 shows. Everything is by the year that they're in. You can also find the shows. Oh, whose face was that? We just passed by a little bit, but you can check these all out on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music as MP3 only, like audio only episodes. So you can check all of those out as well, if that is something to your fancy. Oh my goodness. But check all those out. Links down below. My YouTube subscribe list came up. And of course, everything is now broken. Okay, thanks, YouTube. Good job. Yeah, what is this? I don't know what that is. Can you... That's fair. And again, if you want to look at the other podcasts or listen to them, look at them with your ears. The podcasts are all posted on the Patreon page. The links to the extra podcast links down below, but these are only available on Patreon, so there's the extra shows. You can check all these out, of course. These are only available right there, but they're the meet and greet, the setups, the building blocks for the show, where we just hash things out and work through things that you may or may not have heard about. And these are only available, again, on Patreon. You can check those out. But if you want to support the show in a more physical way, you can head over to the official Designed by Humans store, the apparel store. There's a whole lot of other things I have planned for this, but right now it's just t-shirts, tank tops, tees, hoodies, sweatshirts, etc. And these are made by artists that I have worked with in a little World of Warcraft community. Those shirts for the sort of commemorative world firsts, which we'll keep doing as we go forward. And then the little final bosses by Fabelini. You can go pick up any of those. But I've got more stickers and mugs and other shirt planned in the future. There's a little Illidan right there. But you can go check those out down below as well. Just things to help keep the show rolling every week. Everyone always wants the show to have more installments or more than just one episode a week, but that just comes out of time, really. But if you didn't hear at the beginning of the show, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the shows and the specs are still kind of smooshed together a little bit. Like we still have Unholy and Frost on the horizon. We'll put those together. We had Discipline and Holy Priest we had smooshed together. But after this first whole pass, we will be doing all of the specs for the second pass in Legion, because we're going to be here for another year and a half probably, right? We're Tier 2 starting soon. We still have Argus on the horizon. They'll all be separate. So everyone's been asking for a very long time to have separate shows, only talk about one spec directly, and that is happening the second time around. So that's just the way the show grows, but be patient, because it's going to take like a year to get through that. So just be patient, all right? Jeez. But check out all the links down below. But that's all I got to say about the show and all that plug stuff. But I'm going to bring up some talent calculators here and stats and artifact things, but... So what do arms warriors care about right now, Corejo?
Mastery.
Well, okay.
That's the only thing you care about is mastery.
Oh, that's it,
It's
huh?
unfortunate. Yeah, honestly, if you could choose like 1,000 haste or you mean like 2,000 haste and like 1,000 mastery, you choose 1,000 mastery.
So
yeah, I mean, it's that strong, and unfortunately, it's that way. In 7.2.5 though, with the mastery nerf, you're going to see a lot more other stats coming up, like crit. It's going to be actually decent. You know, versatility actually might go down, and haste would be better too, and strength would be up there too now, thankfully.
It's always weird when your primary stat is weaker than your secondaries, and this is after we live in a post-secondary stat sort of squish world, because I know for enhancement, I care about haste, then mastery, then agility. So,
yeah,
I don't know why they can do it again. Maybe we'll get another secondary stat squish or something. But
yeah, for me at least, it takes like 30 eye levels to beat like 500 more mastery. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the extreme. But like from my stat which is like mastery, haste is equal to verse, then crit is equal to strength. It's just so bad.
And they're fixing that, though. Again, more things that
they are
trying to fix for arms in the future. But because I even noticed too, like shenanigans, you're wearing the jewel crafting crafted neck, which is just stamina and mastery, and then the charge. It's charge and
intercept, which is for prot.
Gives 6% more rage.
it's pretty good because you would run out and charge mid-combat quite a bit, and the extra rage for arms is just huge.
But that...
And then, of course, that mastery is just so juicy.
Can we talk about that in the BTS show? Because Naeno made fun of you for worrying about your eye level, but you were worrying like a... What's the eye level on the neck? Like, it's like
875.
875. So... But it's really
worth so much.
Really that good, though, huh?
I think I sinned myself. I think a 920 neck beats it at that point, but I get to get one that high.
Like a 920 mastery something.
Mastery verse, mastery haste, heavy mastery at least.
Yeah, as the main stat. Is there that? How does that still work out though with arms and the whole like walking out of melee and charging back in? Like how often does that still transpire though? Is that still a main part or? No,
with your new 4-piece, well not new 4-piece, but your 4-piece, the better gear you get, you'll do that.
Oh. Interrupting. Do you?
Sorry.
You're fine. But
sorry, but with our 4-piece, you're saying the battle cry at 2 seconds and stuff like that. You get more rage during battle cry because you only generate rage because it doesn't come. Basically, the better gear you get, the less important that is. But it's still useful when you run other talents when you get more rage starve.
Right. Yeah, Archie Corejo is fighting up his inner demons.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Because that was the thing that I knew that was very prevalent in beta testing is obviously the charge in, go ham. Then when your charge comes back off cooldown, you would either leap or walk away and charge back in, like almost all the time. So not as often as much.
Not as often, but fights like Gul'dan, you'll do it a lot.
Sure.
Very useful.
That's fair. How about the flip side? This is almost asked the exact same question, which so all Fury Warriors care about is haste, right?
Not exactly. Haste and mastery. They're both.
Oh gosh. 2 stats. But yeah,
yeah,
so
two stats. And burst. Burst is also up there. Everything but crit, basically.
Okay. Yeah, so where do the stats fall then for Fury? How's that all work out?
So like in general, you're mostly just gonna want as much haste as you can, and then from there you want to get mastery. And the reason you want to get so much mastery right now is mainly because DOS scales off your mastery because your mastery increases how much damage you deal during enrage, and that buffs your DOS. And also just mastery in general for AOE, which Nighthold is very heavy of. It will also assist you in that when you Odin's Fury and Whirlwind and all those type of stuff while in rage. So mastery and haste are relative close to each other. So for some people, mastery will be better. For other people, haste will be better. But in general, haste is just easier to gear for and just smoother, and in the long run will just do you better than mastery will.
Okay.
But it's not like it's not like arms where I mean he has an 875 neck. Just that says a whole lot right there.
Yeah, there have been sort of small problems that come up like that. I don't know if it's a problem though, because again, the whole jewelry debacle has been so weird this expansion because they don't have primary stats on them. So all they have is stamina. You're like, okay, whatever. Because there are those rings that are like 840 eye level that are stamina and like 1 stat, which is like 2,000 plus. That just
I got one of those.
There's world drops. Like I remember our fire mages all wanted the crit one when we started progression. You know, way back when fire mage was a thing. I'm sorry, fire mages. That doesn't. That's. I know my monk has one. Like a versatility, like 2100 versatility in 1 slot is pretty good. So they're not as prevalent, but no shenanigans like what Arms has with those necks or any of the crafted pieces for Fury. Though, right?
No crafted pieces, but there could be a couple dungeon pieces that, you know, could be like better at lower eye levels than most other things.
Okay.
For example, being the COS ring or even the Upper Karazhan ring.
Okay. So I guess the follow-up to that is the stat priorities changing then? Because Corejo kind of went over that, but the question I had that was proposed in Discord was that will Fury just continue to hate crit?
Basically, yeah. As long as COF is a thing, Battlecry only has a 45-second cooldown. Or 50-second cooldown, my bad. As long as COF is a thing, and you always have battle cries coming up around every 30 or 25 seconds due to the trinket, it just devalues crit so much. And from the looks of it, it looks like we are going to continue using COF, at least for the early on parts of TOS.
Yeah.
So not much changes in that regard for Fury.
I guess that what is because we can sort of wrap up with stats and how COF and Draft of Souls have been so pivotal for Fury. What are you guys looking at replacing them with in Tomb of Sargeras? Do we know?
Wait, can you repeat that again? I wasn't listening.
Well, what are we looking at? What are you looking at replacing your two trinkets right now, COF and the draft in Tomb? Are there trinkets specifically from Tomb that you'll replace them with, or are you just gonna like roll relinquish trinkets all day and hope you get a Chaos Talisman or a Withered Gem trinket?
Oh no, definitely. DOS was going to be replaced with or without a nerf. Was going to be replaced in TOS because DOS right now is so powerful due to a combination of things. Right. You have Frothing Berserker. You have the tier 19 4-piece, which makes DOS fit inside your Enrage. Otherwise, it wouldn't. You have so those things all come together and make DOS as powerful as it is currently. But even then, in TOS with tier 20. Which does do at the same eye level the same numbers as tier 19, but obviously with eye level inflation you're going to be wearing tier 20. But we were going to replace the trinkets anyways. One of them would have been Moonglaves. Moonglaves is just a very, very strong trinket, even after its 40% nerf that all the trinkets got for warriors on the PTR due to Battlecry. It's still one of the best ones. You have Cradle, which is also another powerful trinket, Toxin, Cinders, and Engine, and all those trinkets were very good replacements to DOS. COF is a little bit harder to replace due to just what it provides. It's not, it doesn't provide you raw damage, the trinket itself, but it does give you damage in terms of having Battlecry up so often.
Yeah.
And that right there is very hard to value, and which is why it's so hard to replace that trinket. Most people think it's DOS that it's hard to replace, but in reality, COF is what makes the spec so powerful right now, with just how low of a cooldown we have on Battlecry, alongside our Relic that increases the damage we do within Battlecry. And all those things in combination just makes COF such a powerful trinket for us. But definitely DOS was going to be replaced one way or the other. And no, thankfully, we don't have to go and farm dungeon trinkets or old raid trinkets like some classes still have to do. So I'm glad for that.
Yeah, and then Corejo, is the same thing true for arms? Is there anything you're keeping? Is like, are you still having the Convergence of Fate problem going forward, or are you going to be able to replace pretty smoothly in Tomb?
There's a lot of good trinkets for arms out there that weren't just Draw to Souls. You got like Terrorbound Nexus, you got Spontaneous Appendages, unfortunately. You also got Arcano Crystal, which is really good. Convergence of Fate actually looks pretty decent. You got Killjanes. You got a lot of trinkets that you can replace with. And in Tomb, you got like Engine Eradication is super good with the 80% uptime. And then Glaives and Spectre, all just really good trinkets. They're gonna be, yeah, as Dano said earlier, the opportunity cost from draft is not going to be as is going to be sorry. The opportunity cost is huge for arms because you waste 2 global cooldowns in the Battlecry, which is big. But then these new trinkets allow you to do relatively, not the same damage, but good enough damage and still have the opportunity cost of still casting your main abilities.
Right. Okay, well that's this opportunity cost that draft was supposed to have didn't really exist until they nerfed it for the 2 specs. So now it definitely shows. But Naeno brought up Fury Warrior 2-piece or 4-piece right now a little bit. So let's go over set bonuses. We'll go back and forth between both the tier 19s real quick. And I actually have a typo in my notes right there. My brain. So you're both wearing the war plate of the Obsidian Aspect right now. So with Fury, your 2-piece is that each use of Ferocious Slash, which is probably a sore spot that it still exists, but I guess it works out well in the end.
Wet Noodle Slash.
Wet Noodle Slash, yeah. Grants an additional 15% increase to Bloodthirst critical strike chance, and your 4-piece is that increases the duration of your Enrage by 1.5 seconds. So that
Yep, that
worked
is
out.
correct.
That worked out to be the reason. Another reason why all these little things that lined up for Fury right now, but you're changing that in tier 20 to something very different. So your tier 20, your Titanic Onslaught armor, is your Bloodthirst critical strikes have a 50% chance to grant you a new personal buff called Raging Thirst, which increases the damage of your Raging Blows by 50% for 8 seconds, and your 4-piece is that Raging Blow will increase the damage and healing of your next Bloodthirst by 20% up to 10 stacks. Again, now you get to see these stacking set bonuses coming here. They love, like, I have one, so people have these stacking bonuses. Red Pally have one. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the Onslaught armor for Fury and the change from tier 19 to tier 20? And you said there's no shenanigans, you're not wearing any last tier, so how does the Bloodthirst Raging Blow synergy set bonus look like for you guys so far?
Okay, so it feels like shit, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Oh, God.
Tier 19 is very, very. It makes the spec feel so good. It's such quality of life improvement. It just makes everything flow well, and it also tier 19 2-piece and 4-piece works 80% the entirety of the fight above execute phase, and it works within execute phase. It actually works very well within execute phase. Tier 20, on the other hand, while its numbers are the same as tier 19, it does not make the spec feel that good. It doesn't work at all. Like 2-piece or 4-piece, they do not provide you any benefit whatsoever as it currently stands for during execute phase. Because as it stands, you're not using Raging Blow in your execute phase. And if you start weaving in Raging Blows in your execute phase, you're wasting GCDs that you could have used on execute to build up Juggernaut stacks. So then you're losing a potential Juggernaut stack for a Raging Blow that's not going to do anywhere near as much damage as an execute with Juggernaut stacks would do. So you have that whole dilemma there where basically your tier set is not going to work at an execute phase at all. So it feels really, really bad. It really does, switching from that to the new tier set. But it doesn't change anything really. It doesn't change any of the gameplay. Above 20%, you're still going to be doing the same rotation. You're still going to be pressing the same buttons, and you're still going to be GCD locked. And that's what's going to hurt you at the end in execute. And hopefully, maybe the ring will be what, makes execute phase great again with tier 20, having to rely on a legendary to do that. But it just feels bad that your tier 20 actually has no benefit whatsoever during execute phase.
Yeah, that's a weird. I mean, but then I guess my question from the outside in is that an intentional one to give you more damage outside of forcing the Juggernaut window to be where you start like really shining? Is that you think that Blizzard's point in doing so with the set bonus, or is it just they've been back and forth on tier 19 or tier 20? Normally, they've this really big pattern where either your 19 or your tier 20 right now has this whole like 1 ability or like 2 ability pairing focus, or your 2-piece and 4-piece have nothing to do with each other at all, and you flip-flopped on that.
Yeah.
For Fury, anyway. So
yeah, I think a lot of us think that, like, I personally think that Blizzard maybe thinks how we do the execute phase is different in regards to how we actually do it. Maybe they think we actually use Raging Blow, and then they completely forget about the fact that Juggernaut is there, and getting Juggernaut stacks is very important. And then the other thing maybe is that they just think that our execute phase is so strong due to Juggernaut that we don't need a tier bonus to help us there, because if we did, we're gonna be insane. Which maybe it could be in Tomb. Maybe in Tomb there's not that many mechanics sub 20% that force us to drop Juggernaut stacks. Could be the case, but as it currently stands, it just feels bad. It feels bad, man.
Yeah, that's what Archie was compounding on, that it's good, it just feels bad. Yeah. The same reason that a talent that only works for part of the fight feels bad. You don't think about when it's good, you focus on when it stops working. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that works out. But like numerically, it's probably going to be fine. And you're not.
Yeah, numerically, it's at equal eye level with tier 19. It's around the same, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on your gear. But obviously, with TOS inflation, eye level, it's going to be much easier to get tier 20, and then it will be better, of course.
Right. And it looks, because you're going to be having the helm and possibly the pants, that you can't do any tier 19 2-piece, tier 20 4-piece shenanigans like some people are going to be doing, like me, apparently. Great. So.
And also, it also brings in the dilemma of the legendaries that we do use. Like, for example, right now with the Angry Hat, our tier helm is actually really good at stat-wise. It has haste and mastery on it, which is what we prefer. It's heavy haste. And, we're replacing it with another helm that has, haste mastery on it. But with the legs, in tier 20, we have the same issue just with the legs. So it's like, they're really pushing so that we don't get 2-piece, 4-piece, which is I'm completely fine with, to be honest. I don't think anyone wants to go back and farm Nighthold for Titan Forge pieces.
Well, I hope I don't know why they just don't quash that with making sure that Titan Forging and Warforging, Titan Forging specifically, can't keep moving forward from past raids. Like, Legion Tier 1 raids should have a cap. They should not keep moving. But there's still been no post, no talk about this at all in the PTR. Because it's going to be some top-end guild doing it a few months from now, where you're going to look at their armories after their kills, and you're going to see some weird 940 eye level tier 19 combination. Like, oh, they got super lucky and they cheesed it. Or I don't know why they don't fix that right now before any problems arise.
They should have definitely, like, I'm a firm believer that they should have made it to either where, like, EN gear will only Titan Forge up to a maximum of 895, like it was when we were in EN.
Right.
And then you have Nighthold gear only Titan Forge up to a maximum of 925.
Yep.
Or you could do the other thing, which would satisfy me the most, which is make it so LFR gear cannot Titan Forge past normal gear, and normal gear can't Titan Forge past heroic gear, and the same thing for heroic into mythic gear.
Yep. I mean, we've all seen it, either linked in chat or on someone's stream, of like the LFR 920 Dark Whispers or some other nonsense, which is just ridiculous. It's a white whale, but because so many people are playing and doing the raids, it does still exist, and it's just stupid. It's just stupid, but
it just feels so bad when, like, you look at your main character and then you look at your alts, and your alts is almost the same eye level as your main character, even though it has not touched mythic raids at all.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it's fair. That is fair indeed. How about tier 19 for arms? So the transition here is a little bit a little different focus, I would say. So tier 19 with arms, you're sitting right now. Your 2 pieces, Mortal Strike and Execute crits, have a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of CS. So just more tactician, essentially.
Yeah, it doesn't say on the tier, but it also resets Mortal Strike too.
Oh yeah,
well, kind of weird.
Oh, it resets CS and Mortal Strike, so Mortal Strike can reset itself?
Well, from that 2-piece proc, it resets the cooldown Mortal Strike too. It doesn't say in there, but it does.
And your 4 pieces just increases the duration of your battle cry by 2 seconds.
That's huge, though.
Right. Well, right. But those are, again, these are disconnected set bonuses. Yeah. That's what you have right now. And then your tier 20 is your 2 pieces that Colossus Smash reduces the cooldown of Blade Storm by 3 seconds, or the cooldown of Ravager by 2 seconds. And your 4 pieces that while Blade Storm is active, you'll automatically cast a total of 6 Mortal Strikes at random enemies, or when Ravager is active, you'll cast a total of 4 Mortal Strikes at random enemies. So very, very huge swing from 19 to 20 in just how it plays. But so what are you guys looking at from arms for 19 to 20, Corejo?
Well, the tier is really good for AoE and single target, but it kind of plays weird since you use kind of Blaze for single target, which, kind of weird. Kind of brings back WoD days when you hit Whirlwind single target. But the way Ravager, I want to think what to add here is that the Ravager part of the Mortal Strike is weird because when you throw it, it casts the Mortal Strike at the Ravager's location rather than yourself. So you could throw it at a boss 10 yards away and then hit it on a target. It's kind of neat that way. But play-wise, especially the Blade Storm one, it's going to be kind of weird because if we take a talent Deadly Calm, we would use it outside of Battlecry. But if we don't take it, we would use it with Battlecry. And then we have the new Anger Management, which reduces the cooldown of Blade Storm, which will make Battlecry and Blade Storm almost line up to each other, just barely. And I think it also synergizes with Opportunity Strikes. So when you use a lower HP, those melee abilities, those Mortal Strikes, can proc Opportunity Strikes again, which is really cool.
That's...
And
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff within it. There's a lot of, it looks really simple, but there's a lot of information condensed in it.
Yeah, because it's casting Mortal Strikes. So are things that affect Mortal Strike then in that window also working?
Yes. So if you have, say, you have Focus Rage, first Mortal Strike will consume the Focus Rage, and the others would be normal damage.
Okay. And of course, everything else would obviously, like if you obviously Warbreaker, then throw your Ravager out there, all your extra Mortal Strikes, all that stuff, works together. But it's such a crazy one. I mean, I guess right now with the Battlecry duration, it technically has the AoE synergy there, obviously.
Yes, it does.
But your tier 20 is so AoE focused.
Yeah. I mean, it also does really good single target damage. Blade Storm itself does about 1.8 million.
Okay.
And then the Mortal Strikes are hitting for 600 to 800k.
If I'm not mistaken about my warrior, do you still auto attack during Blade Storm?
Yes, you do.
Okay, that's still
so you generate rage during it.
Right, that's still a thing. So it's not like a huge your opportunity cost of Blade Storm that you're standing still spinning, but yeah, that's not a super big deal. I'm showing off obviously tier 20 on screen right now, the new high-resed Onslaught gear, and it's so crazy how the LFR, normal, heroic, and PvP base colors, and then the mythic set is so good.
I love it.
Same.
It takes you back to those days where the people who were actually geared, you could tell that they were geared and that they were better at the game than you were.
Right. There definitely is great verticality in all the new sets, like how bulky it feels, like how your hips and the feet guard, the bracers, the hand pad looks really good. I think still in this poll at the end of this, the MO champion, what tier 20 armor set is your favorite? The results, I believe, are still, Warrior is ahead, 25%, Warlock at 18, then Priest at 14. So Warrior is still on top for their tier 20, at least according to the MO champion community. So
it's definitely beautiful. I also like what they've done with the new, they seem to have been able to start placing 3D objects on the actual gear, and that just makes
that a lot.
It makes it stand out. On the side of the leg plates, you can see those reinforced, I guess armor pieces with little
hip
plates and stuff on them.
Hip plates and things,
Yeah, the hip plates, and then you have it on the gloves as well. It just looks really well done.
I mean,
the current Nihil tier for the DKs looks really sick with those blades and the gauntlets.
Monks have shoulder pads, for crying out loud, in their gear, which are tied to the chest apparently, but they have actually elbow pads, not just shoulder pads. They're all sort of connected, and their gauntlets all go down to their hand. They have it goes over their fingers. So
it's actually really neat.
Yeah, it looks really nice, especially compared to tier 19. Tier 19 was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But it's all, of course, based out of Black Temple is what a lot of the gear is.
Yeah.
If you had Black Temple gear, that's what it's from.
It's pretty iconic.
So, of course, we'll wait and see how everything shakes out, because these are both, gameplay changes. It's weird, not to sound salty, only a little bit. The enhancement one is just going back to the old rotation we used to do with just putting Crash Lightning in the main rotation. We're just fishing for Stormbringer procs. So it doesn't even change, anything with our rotation or at all in tier 20. It's nice. Numerically, they're still tweaking it so it actually isn't a DPS loss like it was originally. But it doesn't really change anything. But looking at the 19s and 20s for Fury and Arms, these are, thematically different feels on how you actually would play the class. So
the tier 20, I think, actually really kind of fits the class fantasy a lot of people like about arms of being the blade master. Kind of blade storming around and hitting people multiple times. It's kind of neat. I like it a lot.
Getting very dizzy.
Yeah.
Getting very dizzy, right?
Bring back warlords, hitting whirlwind, waiting for World Strike procs.
Yeah. The colors are different. The question was brought up. The color differences because there's a normal, a heroic, and a mythic. The mythic is the super armored version, and there should be a version of that for like arena for PvP.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be 6 versions of all the sets, and there's one for mythic and then one for ranked arena, and they're different colors. But the different colors are LFR, normal, heroic, and then base PvP. So
and then elite PvP.
Elite, and then elite, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could get the elite ones and the regular PvP ones already, so you can start looking like you're in tier 20.
I mean, some of the sets actually have 7. Like, Warlocks have 7 colors, but others are supposed to only have 6. So they're probably not done yet with all the different colors.
I know Alliance and Horde had different colors depending for the PvP
Oh, yeah,
sets.
for the PvP ones they do. Yeah, that's right.
That's
the
right.
Alliance one's more blue, and the Horde one's more, like, brownish, reddish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Well, I have here for, like, legendaries and trinkets. We've talked about a ton of trinkets in here, and legendaries are broken down and peppered throughout as well. So, and again, if you want more, like, direct, when 7.245 comes out, the MMO Champion post for Fury or the Arms Compendium will all be updated all beautifully, and the pins will be there in the Discord channel, so check those out in Skyhold. So I want to jump into talents then. And not to sweep Fury under the rug, because they're not getting as many changes, but just to point it up first. Naeno, you want to walk me through, like, how Fury specs now, like El Clasico currently, and if there are any big, like, possible changes or swaps or priorities, or like ones you could wiggle around there? Like, what's the baseline you guys are working on right now with Fury?
Okay, so we'll start with the level 100 tree and go up, because you'll see the synergy sort of form from there. So your 100 talent is always going to be Reckless Abandon. It used to be Dragon Roar, but then they nerfed it, and then they buffed Reckless Abandon, and now it's Reckless Abandon. So you're always going to go with that. And then for your 90 row, you're going to be wanting to go with Inner Rage. It just makes the entire rotation feel more fluid. You always have a button that you're pressing. It also helps in non-single target scenarios. You do have Frenzy, which on the Sims shows up very close to Inner Rage, and for some people even above Inner Rage. But it just, in practicality, it just doesn't do that. So most of the time you end up going Inner Rage. For your 75 tree, you have technically 2 choices, but really at this point into Nighthold, you only have 1 choice, which is Frothing Berserker. Early on in Nighthold, you could have gone Massacre, most specifically for Star Augur, where your damage would just skyrocket once you got into Execute. But now at this point, bosses are not lasting in Execute that long, to the point where Massacre is going to help you. It's going to make up for losing the damage Frothing would have given you for the entirety of the fight, because Frothing works for the entire fight, while Massacre only works for 20% of the fight. And then you have, from there, for your 60 tree, it's just utility, really. You have Fierce Charge, which just heals you on your next Bloodthirst. You have Bounding Stride, which reduces its cooldown, and then you get a movement speed buff. And Warpaint just reduces damage you take when enraged. You could either go with Bounding Stride or Warpaint. I just like to default run Bounding Stride, because I like to jump out at the last second for mechanics and things like that. Of course. For your 45 tree, you can go either Avatar or Wrecking Ball. Outburst is a giant meme. Don't even look at that. Avatar is very... Avatar is really good on single target and on AoE, depending, because it lines up really well with your cooldowns. You're always going to have Avatar and Battlecry will be up together. Avatar and DOS will be up together. They almost share basically the same cooldown, just a 5-second difference. However, you do have Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is a very good contender on fights such as Scorp, Tyke, even Mythic Gul'dan. Wrecking Ball is a great contender. But you also have, and also in dungeons, Fortified weeks or teaming weeks, Wrecking Ball is amazing. It actually is. If you have the Legendary Belt, which increases damage your Wrecking Ball does by 33% if it hits 3 or more targets, you're going to be doing an insane amount of trash damage. And you don't lose too much on single target, because the bosses are going to die within 1 Avatar usage if you would have used Avatar anyways. Unless you're doing very high Tyrannical, you're not going to use Avatar more than once on a dungeon fight. So... Right. For dungeons, you could go either way. You could go Wrecking Ball or Avatar. I prefer to run, personally, Wrecking Ball from doing carries and stuff, just because trash is most of the dungeon.
Yep.
And your single target on the boss, like I said, you're not going to lose too much by going Wrecking Ball over Avatar. But for default Nighthold, you'll go Avatar. Because it lines up really well, like I said, with Odin's Fury, Battlecry, and all those other things. For your 30 tree, it's just stuns. Well, it's more utility, really. You can either go Shockwave or Double Time. Honestly, Shockwave good for dungeons. Double Time will be good for raids where the bosses move, or you have to do a mechanic and then you have to get back in really quickly, so you go Double Time.
Mm-hmm.
And then for your level 15 tree, you have two choices. You have War Machine, Endless Rage. Fresh Meat is just like Outburst. Don't look at it. It's bad.
Oh.
So you have War Machine, which is sort of like a mini Lust. You don't have to get the killing blow on the target. You just have to hit the target with anything that's not Odin's Fury. For some reason, Odin's Fury does not count as hitting the target to proc War Machine. But you just have to hit the target within the last 2 or so seconds to proc War Machine. So, you basically run this on almost every fight in Nighthold besides Trilliax, Augur. Even on Augur, you can make a case for running it. Same thing on Crosis. But you would use Endless Rage. That's the more single target oriented talent. So you would run that on Trilliax, Crosis, Augur, if you're not running War Machine, that is, to try and get some beefy execute phase with the ads on Augur and getting your haste buff. But War Machine it's kind of annoying at times on fights such as Botanist, where if you run War Machine in Double Time, you can make great use of it because you can charge out and help with the lashers and get the buff, so then that'll help you on the boss itself, so it's single target. Or you could try Heroic Throwing. Heroic Throwing is kind of iffy because it has a travel time, and then if the ad doesn't die within the time required to proc War Machine, then you just waste it because your range stopped doing damage to it if they killed it too fast. But in general, War Machine's a really, really good talent. It's your default choice for dungeons, basically, and you'll always be running that because, I mean, it's just 30% haste and 30% movement speed for 15 seconds, which is quite nice. So all of that together just makes the spec work really well. The biggest synergy being between Frothing Berserker and Reckless Abandon.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that works really well. Again, it seems like it's almost like Fury Warrior, which has been building up over the first iterations here, and the first tier of Legion just has not only like the talent build that is almost all locked in, but then all these just Jenga pieces just kept piling up and piling up, really building a Lego castle slowly, and it all sort of just came together. But there's no big changes you guys are finding out, or possible big changes with your tier 20 and Tomb on the horizon? Because wouldn't Inner Rage have a bit of an issue then with tier 20? Like, what did you guys looked at for the horizon then? Any big changes?
Not really. There was a slight buff to Frenzy, which increased its duration from 10 seconds to 15, but that's not really what the issue with Frenzy was.
Right.
People are saying, oh, are we being locked into Frenzy now? Because it's a stacking buff that we have on our tier 20, and that means we can spam Raging Blow if we go Frenzy, because Raging Blow has no cooldown unless you take Inner Rage, but you have to be enraged to use it, right? But it's not the case. Raging Blow, Inner Rage, just works better with tier 20 as it currently stands than Frenzy does. Frenzy, just like I said before, it sims well, but in practical terms, in-game, it's not that good. It's more of a single target oriented talent, and even then, it's basically you have too many abilities that you cannot fit into a spec that's locked into 3 GCDs.
Mm-hmm. And
having Inner Rage just makes the entire spec flow well. You press Blithers, you press Raging Blow, Furious Slash, Blithers back up, Raging Blows back up after that, and it just continues to cycle over and over again. And it's what gives the spec. It just makes the spec feel good, and it also provides good numbers. And alongside that, the buff that it gives, it buffs Raging Blow by 150%, plus the buff from your 2-piece. It works well together. You would have to get some seriously high stacks. Stacking up Raging Blow with the 4-piece to get a big Bloodthirst hit won't necessarily make up the difference of losing the default damage you gain from Inner Rage, if that makes sense.
Well, right. That's what I was basically getting to, is that this, this stacking set bonus, oh boy, but it sounds like you're just not really going to stack it.
Yeah, you're basically not. It's going to be very difficult to stack. If not, just you're never going to end up stacking it, more than likely.
You'll get like 1, 2 stacks, maybe. That's how it sounds like.
Yeah, 2 is iffy.
2 is
more
iffy?
Than, yeah, 2 is pretty iffy. It's more than likely just going to be 1 stack.
Yeah, I wonder, because the other choice you have in that tier, of course, is just Bloodbath, which is something. It's just a numbers thing, I assume, that it's just not worth it, essentially.
Yeah, it runs into the same issue as Frenzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spec is GCD locked, and Bloodbath. Bloodbath is actually, it was pretty fun to play with, to be honest. I did it in a couple of dungeons with it, and you do a lot of damage, but on single target, it just doesn't work as well as Inner Rage does. Neither of those talents. Bloodbath doesn't work single target as well as Inner Rage does, and Frenzy doesn't work AoE as well as Inner Rage does.
Okay.
Inner Rage just basically works the best in almost all scenarios in regards to those other 2 talents that are competing with it.
Sounds good to me. How about arms? Now this will take, and then you can help Corejo out on this one, because there's quite a bit of back and forth here. Unless Corejo can handle the whole thing. Crack those knuckles, get ready to go. But you have the build now, which arms right now, to my understanding, like you said before, is very locked in its ways until the patch. So what's kind of like the build that you guys run now on live? And then we'll go and contrast what you guys are looking at in 725, Corejo. Muted, I think? Where's the button?
Oh, yeah, sorry. But the first talents, the 15, you have Dauntless. It was just really good because it's 20% rage cost, more pressing buttons, more damage. You have Overpower, kind of a meme. Then you have Sweeping Strikes, which is good for 2 fights. You got Gul'dan and El'San, which is really good for that free cleave, especially with Executioner's Precision. Stacking out those other targets in World Strike, you hit for like 12 million in total. And then you got 30, same as Fury, kind of the utility tree. Double time is your best choice, but if you're going to do like Parasites on Gul'dan, Shockwave's also really good. The 45 tree for battle is kind of a joke. Rend is kind of a joke, and Avatar is just really good. Synergizes with Drought of Souls, just a good time. Level 60 tree, you got Second Wind, which is okay for leveling. You got Bounding Stride, which is really good for raids because you can get more ability. And then you got defensive stats, which is, I guess, really good. I found it really useful on like fights like Il'gynoth. We had a high burst amount of damage, and you need that extra 20% reduction when you're not doing anything. It's really good. For 75 tree, infinite kills garbage, Mortal Combo's garbage, and Focus Rage is the way to go.
Yep.
Level 90, you got Trauma and Titanic Might, which are memes still, so Deadly Calm is the way to go. For 100, you got Anger Management, definitely the best way to go, and Opportunity Strikes is too weak, and Ravager is used for 1 fight for padding Spellblade. But the reason why these talents are so good, because they all just synergize with each other so heavily. Let's start with the Dauntless, decrease the cost of your abilities, which means you can use Focus Rage more, which means Anger Management reduces the cooldown of Battle Cry, and means more Battle Cries, means more times you get free rage with Deadly Calm. It kind of just cycles through again and again. More Battle Cries, more Deadly Calms, more Focus Rage uses, etc.
Because the problem you guys had right now, and that was the beginning of the show, we talked about just like the rage issue that ARMS sits with now. And all the other abilities, either if they make you spend rage, then you don't want that. Or if they don't help you or give you any rage, then again, you don't want that either.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cut and dry with ARMS currently.
It's also interesting how just Focus Rage actually has no competition whatsoever currently. Because Mortal Combo, if you take Mortal Combo, you might as well not be taking a talent.
Yeah,
you're going to be doing the same amount of damage if you didn't take a talent.
Mortal Combo, it's a system of old design, because back in beta, Mortal Strike crits would extend the duration of Colossus Smash back in the day. So you would take that, and then you Battle Cry, Mortal Strike, and then you get extra 4 seconds of Colossus Smash. That was really good. But now it's just kind of there and not good.
Yeah, the Infinite Kill is Mortal Strike will refund 30 rage when used against targets that are below 20% health. Which,
so it's useless for most of the fight. Or like big ads, you'd use it, and then you might overcap, and it's just too niche to be worth.
It's very, very awkward. But that's where ARMS sits now. But again, as I showed earlier in the stream, this is live, and here is 7.2.5. So now, what are you guys looking at on the horizon? Like, what is changing as 4 talents have moved?
Yeah. And then certain talents have been reworked, like for the kill was reworked, for battles buffed, trauma got extra buff. So let's start at level 15. Dauntless, still a good choice, 10% less rage instead of 20%. Still a really good talent. Overpower, really good actually, and it says on here it costs rage, but it actually doesn't on the PTR.
Yeah, it's free. It's free, yeah.
It's free. It's really good. And then Sweeping Strikes is still a decent talent to take in Mythic Plus in cleave fights because, you know, hitting 2 additional targets from World Strike and Execute's huge. Ignore 30 line. Go to 45, just kind of your bleed line with Avatar. Trauma is actually decent now because of it affects Execute, so it's not useless for 20% of the fight. You'll always have it up. It's just a decent dot to have up. Rend is also pretty good now too. It does a very little damage right off the bat, but it does so much damage later on. It's like it does 1,000% of your attack power, which is nuts.
Yeah, let's
over 8 seconds.
Yeah, comparing, so 150% weapon damage on cast, but then 1,000% attack power over 8 seconds versus live, which is 108% attack power when you wound the target. So it goes from attack power to weapon damage on cast, and then the coefficient on live is 559% attack power over 15. Again, to 1,000% over 8. Yeah.
The only issue with Ren is that a multi-target be pretty bad because you spend a lot of your time just refreshing it over and over again.
Trauma works on Whirlwind, so...
Trauma works on Whirlwind, so Trauma's good on... Yeah. And it also works with Sweeping Strikes because then when your Execute hits multiple targets, Trauma applies to multiple targets. Really good synergy there. And then Avatar, same way it is. Still a good talent. I don't see it going away, maybe. Maybe for more bursty fights, you would put combo with Bladestorm and just do a massive amount of damage. Okay, let's go to 75 line. You got Fervor Battle, which was moved from Trauma. Fervor Battle increases your whirlwind damage by 80% to the primary target. 80% is huge. That's a hard-hitting ability.
It's doubled from live.
Yeah. And then the cool thing about Fervor Battle is that Whirlwind hits 3 separate times rather than just once. So each of those hits is 8% harder, basically. But then, like, each of those hits can crit, which is really good. And then each of those crits generates rage from one of your artifact points, Will of the First King. Gets you 1 rage per crit, but that's still really good when you hit multiple targets. They have Mortal Combo, still the same garbage talent it is. Not gonna change. Yeah, it's sad, but it's really good in PvP, I guess.
I think that's where it lies. Even though, again, why are PvP talents in the whatever?
Yeah, even now though, I've seen a lot of PvPers running just Titanic Might instead of Mortal Combo. That seems to have swapped in the meta around a bit.
Yeah, Titanic Might's really good. The new Titanic Might's really good for target switching and cleave fights because you would always have it up, and especially it'd be really good at Mythic Plus too. What I found out is that you would use your Heroic Leap Pants that would apply Colossus Smash, or you'd finish a pack and then go into the next pack, your Colossus Smash is up again, so that you can start another target with Colossus Smash. And then it's easier to spread around with the lower cooldown.
Yeah.
And then you have 100% uptime on Colossus Smash, which is really good.
Yep. On like a single target tunnel fight, yeah.
Yeah. And then you got level 90 talents. Delicom, you got nerfed a little bit, 75% reduction. Still really good talent because it's basically almost free. You're spending very little rage or generating a ton of rage during that. Really good talent. In for the kill is very interesting because it increases your rage gen because of, more haste, faster swings, but also grants you more ability uses because it reduces the cooldown or the global cooldown of your other abilities. It's really good. It really emphasizes that window of opportunity. And then of course it synergizes well with Titanic Might, because then you'll have a lot of, there's a lot of Colossus Smash uses, the high up time of in for the kill. And you got Focus Rage. It costs 20 rage instead of 15. It's an okay talent, it looks like in that tier, but outshined by in for the kill and Deadly Calm. Anger Management got a pretty big change to it in level 100 talents. It's every 20 rage instead of every 10 rage. Reduces the cooldown of Battlecry, but it adds Blade Storm into the mix now by 1 second.
Yeah.
That allows Battlecry and Blade Storm to line up almost basically the same with the 2-piece reducing the cooldown of Blade Storm and Ravager by X seconds whenever you use Colossus Smash. And then you got Opportunity Strikes. I really, really like this talent. I think it's really fun. The cool thing about it is that for the longer fights, it's say like Gul'dan for the very long execute phase, this would be really, really good because it'll proc a lot, especially at lower health. And then the extra rage helps with you getting full rage executes. Really fun time. Ravager is also pretty interesting too. It does a bit more damage in live, but it also generates 7 rage each time it deals damage. That's really good, getting all that free rage and then able to use whirlwinds and more AoE abilities during that, which is really good.
Just to make sure we clarify, it reads that it generates 7 rage each time it deals damage. Now, is that just every time it pulses once per second for 7 seconds, or is that every time it does damage to a thing?
Every time it pulses and does damage.
Okay, so
unfortunately, it only generates 7 rage how many targets it hits, unfortunately.
Right.
It'd be bonkers if it generated rage per target.
Yeah, well, that's what I was making sure. Because, well, the synergy here is that, so Ravager is also, to make sure we clarify, it replaces Blade Storm.
Yes.
It is basically a Blade Storm that you throw, whereas Blade Storm is just you. And it essentially doubles the damage that it does, and it lowers the cooldown slightly by 30 seconds. So when you Ravager, then you get to whirlwind in your Ravager, essentially, is what it does. Or sweeping strikes and mortal strikes, stuff like that. And especially, I have trauma selected right now. There's going to be some shenanigans with Ravagering, sweeping strikes, mortal striking, trauma. The Blade Dancer style definitely is coming in here, which is really exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot more synergy coming out with all the new tier and these new talents.
Yeah.
Fervor, Battle, and Trauma synergize super well together. Increases the whirlwind damage, and then you use whirlwind Trauma, increases that damage, really good. And then you got In for the Kill, which synergizes well with basically everything, I should say.
Well, yeah, that's what I was looking at here. Like a super AoE build would probably, I don't know, but In for the Kill giving you more haste, which gives you a lower global cooldown, and then sweeping strikes, trauma, and fervor, and Ravager. There's a lot happening here, but then you can swap over to things like Dauntless and Ren, Titanic Might, Deadly Calm, and Anger Management, Opportunity Strikes, and have a really single target focused build. Yeah,
there's tons of viable choices now, and there's tons of different builds that really compete almost the same. I found Dauntless and Overpower super good single target. I found Ren really good too, and Trauma super good. But one thing I found that would be pretty neat for an AoE build is that you use the Legendary Ring, and it gives you Deadly Calm, right?
Oh,
so then you pair that with In for the Kill. So now you're, more haste, more abilities cast, and then you have a lesser rage cost too. Really good times.
I wish my ring was good.
Yeah,
it's okay, but
the Warrior one, when it first got released, it looked okay.
Yeah.
But now it looks a bit better. I would say it has potential to be really good, but right now as it stands, it's just potential.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I love on the show, and this goes back to any of the previous guests that are sitting in chat or any viewers that have been here for a long time. I mean, Archie might just nod his head. I always bring up that when I interview a spec and they tell me, you take these talents, this one might swap once or twice, but then you take the rest of them and they never change.
Yeah.
And that always feels like it's just a huge, either we've found out the formula or Blizzard just is not still working on these mop talent models to not have all of them overpowered. So you only pick one because they're just mathematical pitfalls in some of these.
Oh, so one thing I forgot to...
Oh, go ahead.
One thing I forgot to add about the Legendary Ring and giving you Deadly Calm, it gives you the playstyle focused rage again. So you could fish for resets. That could be a really good, single target build where you use focused rage, You'd use it at more higher rage than lower rage nowadays, but used during Deadly Calm. It's just basically get more resets, good times.
Yeah, that is a lot of. I mean, it's great to hear that ARMS
There's
has
just a ton of builds out there.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to throw some salt out there just for funny, but I mean, there is definitely. I think Fury, in comparing and contrasting right now, didn't get as much as ARMS, but they can only focus on so much. I mean, Enhancement's sort of getting the same treatment ARMS is getting, where they have moved and changed. We've literally taken our set bonus we have in Tier 19 and put it on a talent, because it's so important to us that they've moved that directly, and we get to get that for free on our ring. So that opens up like 2 different build possibilities. So it's they are adjusting. But we'll have to wait and see if that really bounces out in the end. Because 3 months from now, we all could be playing one spec only. You never, hopefully not. But
I mean, I'm just glad they introduced not just one synergy with all these talents, but they introduced multiple synergies with multiple talents. That's just really fun, in my opinion.
Right. No, it looks really good. Naeno, do you have anything else to add? So you're swooping to Arms Warrior, right? You're just leaving Fury in the dust? Yeah?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. Not the death of Fury by any means whatsoever. At least from the raid testing I did, it doesn't seem to be.
Right. But I think that's enough for talents, unless you have anything else that we missed. Anything?
I think that's pretty much it.
So it's nitty-gritty time. So if chat has any questions, we have a little bit of time that we can sort of weave in chat questions. And then, of course, I have some built-in stock ones here. And I guess the first one I want to ask is that it usually gets asked all the time in Discord. Like, ask this to the guest, ask this. But it's usually just kind of tinfoil hatty. But I'll go to Naeno first. It's what would you change about anything in regards to either ARMS or Fury? If you want to just focus on Fury, that's fine. That you play today. Is there anything that you would change right now? Like if I ran World of Warcraft, kind of a question.
Execute. Instantly, I would change Execute. Fury's Execute right now, just, oh God, I hate Juggernaut. I hate Juggernaut. It just feels so bad. I thought that maybe, they could increase the baseline damage of Execute and lower the percentage you gain from Juggernaut stacks. Or they could do what Arky said, which was make it so Juggernaut stacks is a debuff on the target, and the debuff only falls off if you execute another target. So, you're building up Juggernaut stacks on this one target, and it's going. And you could do raid mechanics. You don't have to seem like the douchebag of the raid who's like, bot me here, please. Spell bot me over here, because I'm going to sit in this mechanic, because if not, I'm going to lose all my damage by dropping these stacks. Or I'm not going to help you with that ad over there, because I need to build up stacks on this guy over here. It's things like that. So definitely Execute would be the one thing that I would change, especially going to Tier 20, because we're losing such quality of life, especially in Execute phase due to the Tier 19 2-piece really helped out, and we're just losing that now going into Tier 20. So Execute in Tier 20 is going to feel very, it's going to feel very bad.
Right.
And maybe the ring can alleviate some of that by giving us Massacre. But then it's still going to feel bad once things are on farm and bosses are dying too fast, and it doesn't matter how many stacks you get, and your damage isn't going up as much as it should be for a class whose fantasy is actually, no one's damage goes down during Execute, but our damage goes up during Execute. And I think it should go up a little higher than it currently does and not take as much time as it does, in my personal opinion at least. So that'd be the one thing I would instantly change. Just Juggernaut as a whole, increase the duration on it by even more. 2 seconds, I don't feel it was enough from 6 to 8. Change it to a debuff. Change it to make it so your baseline Execute just does more damage without having to rely on Juggernaut stacks. You sort of feel punished, really. You play well, right? And you're doing as much damage as you should be, but then you do a mistake, or the game forces you out of being unable to maintain that buff, and it feels like you're being punished for not being able to cheese the encounter, if that makes sense. So that would be the one thing I would change instantly.
Yeah, because letting a certain class or spec do what they're good at is definitely part of the raid mechanic, right? And it's just a problematic one when, at least in certain phases of it, we have to like tell, in my situation, we have to tell our Fury Warrior, well, don't swap targets because it's just going to be a loss anyway and we're trying to push this, so just tunnel, which is great, I guess, for the player, to like min-max and tunnel and whatever on the boss, but it just also feels that having to put that one person, put that pin on the board that, well, this person can't do mechanics then for the last 2 or 3 minutes of the fight, because if they don't, they'll lose all their damage built up, it's not really a raid friendly feel. I don't think really anyone else has that sort of a style or that much of a pigeonhole, but they only have executes on really warriors and a little bit on other classes like Feral Druid, a little bit on Shadow Priest, rather, a little bit on Affliction Warlock coming in the patch, but it's really forced that it's a sore subject for sure with that, with Juggernaut specifically. So
it definitely is, and I mean, it just feels so bad when you drop stacks and it's out of your control. There's literally nothing you can do. You can't stand inside the storm on Mythical Dan. You really can. You can have a spell bot, but what are you gonna do when the next storm comes, or this other mechanic comes that you have to run out? It's just, it feels like you're like hurting the raid at times, really, if you do try to cheese it to where you can keep your stacks.
Right, and Archie brings up, I mean, I said, yeah, there's other, I would put those, though, anyone else's execute is almost a soft execute. Like, Shadow Word Death damage is not going to be executes damage, right? Like, it's something that it can add, may have another button to hit in the rotation, but the key point that he brings up is only Fury Warrior's execute can fail.
Yeah, basically, that's, it feels like you're punished. Yeah. It shouldn't feel like you're punished. Feel like you should be rewarded for doing well.
Right. On the flip side, then, arms, Corejo, anything you would change to arms, or with the changes you have right now, is that enough?
I mean, there's a lot of changes that I like, some I don't like. The one change I would like to make is that the sweeping strikes range is way, way too small. It's literally melee range. And back in WoD, it was 8 yards, and that was really nice. But then sweeping strikes was way overpowered back then. But now it's actually kind of okay. If they increase the range by even a few yards, that'd be just fine. All these other changes are great.
Well, I bring up this all the time, and I have since the beta testing. And this is just mostly a personal gripe. But, so you say right now that Sweeping Strikes is only 5 yards from the warrior, right? Like, is that... Mm-hmm. It used to be 8, but... Yeah,
about there.
About there. But look at this tooltip, all right? So read it with me. So Mortal Strike and Execute hit 2 additional, the keyword here, nearby targets. And that word nearby drives me so insane. Why can't it just say... Mortal Strike and Execute hit 2 additional targets within 5 yards of the warrior.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fine, but it's kind of like Hearthstone. There's a lot of inconsistency with text.
They have these talents in this game that are huge paragraphs at some points. Like monks have gigantic paragraphs for talents or traits or whatever that lay out everything. But then they have talents like this that are just confusing and frustrating unless you know what they do, and that I hate that damn word nearby. Just put the information in the tooltip.
Yeah, please.
Maybe they thought this entire time that it was, it was meant to work with the tier 20 Ravager, because the Mortal Strikes on the tier 20 for arms on the 4-piece, it comes out of the Ravager. If you were to run Ravager, it comes out of Ravager instead of you. So obviously, Ravager would sweep it across the other targets as well. Maybe they had that planned that entire time, or maybe they just think we're stupid and bash our heads on the keyboard so we can't read, and they just give us simple little sentences.
Yeah.
One thing I have to add to that Ravager comment is that the sweeping strikes from the Ravager cast Mortal Strikes at the Ravager location, but if you want those Mortal Strikes to cleave, they're based off you.
Oh yeah, you have to be
really
inside,
weird. Which is really weird. So you can cast it at a very far target, but then you can also run to a bunch of ads, and then those free Mortal Strikes are hitting a target over there, and then your target's in front of you. It's really weird how it works.
Wasn't there... That sort of brings up, like, old school SEF nonsense, where you could put your clones, when you could macro them last expansion or more, you could put your clones on, like, weaker or targets that were taking more damage, but then you could move that damage to you. Like there is all this weird. That might be. Hopefully that doesn't cause issue because the Blizzard usually tries to quash the whole. You can do damage in 2 different places at once at the same time thing as melee. They don't like that very much, but they're giving that to you. That's a good point.
I'm pretty sure that's just a bug, and we have to fix it.
Sure, it could be. Is there any animation with those mortal strikes that fly out of your body? No,
unfortunately there isn't. I really wish there was.
Just numbers. Oh.
Yeah, it's just numbers. That's all it is.
That's fair.
It sounds awesome.
Right.
Spin to win.
There was this is a very, very niche question, but since both Arms and Fury have taunt, block, and are able to use a shield, can they tank dungeons in Legion? Are you at that point right now? You're probably tanking flat mythics, yeah?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We don't run a healer sometimes. We just go 5 DPS and just blast right through it.
yeah, there's definitely times where you do that. Yep. You go Fighter Chow, even after the nerf to Fighter Chow, you can still go 5 DPS and just blast through a dungeon, especially the lower level ones.
Yeah. I mean, I remember saw you, Naeno, you ran 4 tank 1 DPS like a +8 before the nerfs. Like, that was just ridiculous.
I mean, at times we were running, like, depending on the affixes, of course.
Yeah,
like,
of course, yeah.
If there was Necrotic and stuff, you could literally just run no healer that entire week, even on 12s, and I believe the highest we did was a 16 with no healer. And the highest we did without a tank or a healer was, I believe, a 12 or so.
Jeez.
And it was pretty easy. Fury's pretty tanky with the HP you have. You almost have as much HP as some tanks.
It is because of their HP bonus, then they get more when they're enraged. Yeah, even though you take more damage to the face, but it's not even really a noticeable thing. I don't think.
No, it definitely really isn't. It cancels it out. The HP definitely cancels it out pretty well.
Well, I didn't really see anything crazy pop up in chat. Archie, did you have any question you wanted to pose to like pop quiz either of these two about like?
Jeez.
Do you make sure you know this? But you know, I mean, do you have anything for Corejo or Naeno? There was a side question about legendary luck increases, even though we have no legendaries from the current spec to obtain. You have all the Fury legendaries and want to stack luck for the new ones in 725. Honestly, I don't think we know that exists. I don't think.
Yeah.
We don't know how bad luck protection really works. So maybe you're stacking it.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to do it. Like that's what I'm doing at least. I have all the legendaries for Fury, so I'm just sitting there. You know, gathering up some legendary luck right now. So once 725 releases, I can get a legendary instantly, as I did with 7.2. Because it seems when a new patch releases, your chances for legendaries go up and up and up and up. So it feels like you're more than likely going to get a legendary release week of 725.
I mean, when Nihil came out, I got a legendary first Mythic Plus. I did.
Yeah.
Oh, so Archie's question was, how long do you think people will play ARMS before they realize it sucks and go back to Fury?
Okay, I'll be honest here. I think a lot of people would like the new playstyle of ARMS being less reliant on the tactician and all these nice talents that make it flow. It kind of feels like a Fury Warrior. Almost, you're almost GCD locked, but the current state of ARMS, a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you have, just going over, maybe 3 to 4 different interchangeable builds with actual talent decisions that really make sense. There's a super passive one, there's super nonsense AoE, there's a much more higher APM version, so we'll have to wait. I mean, numbers obviously determine everything, right? Numbers determine everything, but I think the biggest fly in the soup in a good way is the new legendaries that they're introducing. Like the talent legendary could really swing builds, and of course the new ones that you have regardless for any of your specs coming out there can also swing builds and change things, and the new set bonuses. And if you're doing, which neither of our guests today and the warrior community isn't doing this, but if you're a class that's doing 2-piece 19, 4-piece 20, does that change the build? We'll wait and find out. So we'll have to see. But how about, since ARMS originally meant the spec was kind of a master of all weapons, is class fantasy a little lost now?
I'd say a little bit, because you're only using a sword.
Right.
And then you get the one appearance as an axe. That'd be pretty neat if you could, if your weapon had multiple weapon appearances. So you had an axe, you had a sword, you had a mace, you had a spear. That'd be pretty neat. That's what I thought they would do.
Yeah, it's just on the art team.
They still need to make those weapons bigger, though.
Oh yeah,
they're way too
massive.
Small.
Well, I guess to piggyback on that question, then, which is to end with this? What's your favorite appearance out of all the Fury appearances, Naeno? What's yours?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I really like the hidden one. I forgot what they're called. The axes with the dragons. Obviously, all the Fury artifact appearances, they have the same concept that they're all dragons. They all look like dragons. But the axes really look like dragons considering they're made out of dragon skulls. So I really like that one, but it looks kind of weird on your back. I sort of feel like they should have been either bigger to be on your back, or they should have just been sheathed on your side.
Mm-hmm.
But lately I'm really rocking the PvP one, the thunder one, because it has a little thunder animation on it, and I really like that one. But that's so hard to choose, really. I'm always swapping my transmog around between the hidden one, the challenge artifact one from the Battlegrounds, the rated Battlegrounds appearance version of it, the red one, and the PvP thunder one. So I'm always swapping between those three. I can't really decide on one, to be honest.
How about your biggest? I was gonna say the bigger version of the two-handed, but they're really not that big. But what's your favorite arms skin then for Stromkar, Corejo? What you got?
I'm tied between the PvP variant and the hidden appearance, the axe. I love the Arcanite Bladebreaker. It's such a neat looking thing. The cool little side quest with Sarfang, you duel him. A little disappointing how easy it was and how long it took us to get it. Thanks, Blizzard. But even the PvP one looks super sick. It's like a sword. It's got like a huge like pendulum thing on the end. It's really neat looking.
I mean, the art team definitely has not spared any expense. Even though, I wonder if we're gonna see any more like on Argus, because the hidden skins we had for the Mage Tower, we knew back at like BlizzCon, and we just get them finally with the new island. So we're at. I mean, I have every unlock for both of my main ones. So I wonder if we'll get any more in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
Maybe. I hope so. Oh,
I really do hope so.
So anything you want to leave the Warrior community with, Corejo? Any little closing anecdote or tip or trick or anything?
Arms Warriors, don't give up hope. Good times are coming. Draw Souls nerf is just one little bump in the road, but we're fine.
Naeno, how about you?
I just wanted to say to Fury Warriors, make sure that you continue making fun of those Arms Warriors. They'll never be as good as us, and keep on rocking it.
Wow. Well, okay, that's fair. I mean, one was positive and one was firing shots, so I guess that's where we're gonna end the show with that one, and that's the button. Thank you very much for being at episode number 141 of Final Boss TV today for the Arms and Fury Warrior sort of compare and contrast show. Again, my name is Adam K, aka Bay. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, check the links down below. The votes for the upcoming shows, of course, will happen once we tackle Blood DK next, and then Holy Paladin. So you can go follow the show on Twitter. Of course, there's a Facebook link, the YouTube link. If you have missed the shows, they're all on YouTube, or you can check me out on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music for the MP3 only, or you can check just FinalBoss.tv for the RSS feed if you just want to like plug it in or hit the play button there if you want to do that. Up to you. You have options, but just like the Arms Warrior options in the future, that was Corejo. You can go follow his broadcast at Corejo_A52 for Area 52, and you can bother him. I assume you're going to be streaming 7.2 stuff in the future and whatnot?
Oh yeah, I'll be streaming a lot more now.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today, sir. It was a pleasure. Appreciate the knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
And there's Naeno over here as well. You can go follow his broadcast, even though all I see him on his broadcast do is just host Archie. So, I mean, it's sort of one another. But I guess, is the stream stuff picking up for you too as well? Or are you just trying to tell us to just go watch Archie stream?
No, I definitely stream. I just forgot to enable the whole save VODs thing automatically. So I gotta enable that real quick, you know?
What a nerd. But thank you for being on the show as well, sir, even though you wouldn't get to see the big beard, but I think we'll let it pass for now. So I appreciate your your time on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time. Oh, I just want to give a shout out over
Yeah.
to the Skyhold community for sure.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
That's definitely where it's at for all your warrior needs and wants.
No, definitely. We live in an age, I didn't plug it during this show, but in chat right there or down below in the links, I have the channel and Discord guide. Soon, I'm trying to get my website updated, the new updates, and all the most of the guide-oriented stuff will all actually be moved over to the website. But all those links for every Discord are all linked right there, so check those out if you'd like. You can also join the Final Boss TV Discord and post questions for upcoming shows when I ping the chat every Friday or Saturday when I'm working on the show notes. But that's it for this one. Blood DK is up next, then Holy Paladin, and then we'll decide from there. You can check out all the shows that are still remaining in the channel guide as well. But thank you all for watching, trusting your seal of artifact power. The Nether Disruptor's up right now. Go get your free seals. Go! Get your free seals. But until next week, everybody. Bye! Bye! Wave at the
Wait, can I add one thing?
Wave. Oh, baby, what's up?
I love to shout out to I Love Lamp. I love you guys for supporting me through all the tough times I had. You guys are awesome.
And dying a lot, apparently, right?
That too, yes.
So thank you all for watching. Wave. You waved already, but
I'm waving.
Are you waving?
I'm waving.
All right, perfect. Good.